of March 20th, 2025 to order. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of January 2nd, 2025.
I don't think we can.
Yeah, Phil and I weren't here.
There was only two of us. We'll have to
Table it.
table
Motion to
the approval.
I make a motion to table the minutes.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Lindsay will table the minutes, please. Chairman's update. None at this time. Consulting engineers report. I'll introduce the two engineers, Kevin Hanlon, and we have Todd Baldwin.
Welcome back.
Todd was with us for some time and is now back.
Yep, so we plan on working together, reviewing these items and work towards a more formal report from the engineer to provide to the board.
That would be
Thank you.
welcome.
It's like what we used to do.
Yes, yeah, I brought a sample of it in case you wanted to see it. I don't know if you had any. I was hoping you'd say that.
I'm pretty sure I can come up with one.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if Kevin wanted, just to get an idea of it. But
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
just,
So
Kevin, you can just show.
we probably won't both be attending meetings in general. We'll figure out some sort of system to make sure that the board's supported to the best of our abilities.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
At this time. Calling on our clerk, Nancy Stead. Nancy, do you have any subdivision submissions or site plan? None. Okay. This next hearing is a public hearing. It's 860 Broadway site plan review,
Takes them.
phased occupancy, sidewalk modification, utility poles. Anyone that would like to speak?
We'll do it till 7:15.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
We'll do it till 7:15.
Okay. We will
Is there anything we can take out of order?
make a motion for
Yeah, we
short
could,
recess.
Second.
We can take it
I'll
out
take
of order.
we could take Chase Bank out of order, or Raising
I
Cane's.
think they get into an hour less than.
Okay. Then what are you looking for, a motion?
Motion to take a short recess.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll take a short recess. Wait for the allotted time, because it is a public hearing. It is now 7:15. I'd like to call the meeting back into order. First public hearing is 860 Broadway site review permit and phased occupancy, sidewalk modification, and utility poles. I will recuse myself from this meeting. I'll let the vice chair take this meeting. But we do have people in the audience. I'll address that.
So remaining members, chairman and remaining members of the board, we're here tonight to give an update on construction, where we're at right now, and discuss the phased occupancy. So building one, we're fully topped out, complete. We're in final inspections right now. We have furnished amenities. All the finishes are done. We've got elevator operating permit through the state. We have a model unit that's all set up right now. Like I said, we're working through the final inspections with Mr. Executive and the fire department. Building 3 also is fully topped out, dried in. They're installing finishes in right now. This one's going to be ready around the end of May. And then the final building, which is actually building number 2, also topped out. They're drying that in right now, installing windows, weatherproofing on the building, just getting that ready for inside finishes. All the site infrastructure is in, all the transformers are landed. We basically have top course or binder course of asphalt all through here right now for flow of traffic. And obviously we're looking to occupy the first building as soon as possible. We know we have about 30 to 45 days of cleanup and inspections and filing things out. We have affidavits to provide to the board and to the town that we're working through right now. But that first building, 78 units, 98 parking spaces. We've been in close contact with the fire department, just talking about flow of traffic. We believe he's on board right now. You know, you can see all the red outlined areas are all the fencing that's going to be installed. I think he's adding one gate on the south side of the parking lot that's set up for phase 1. We already have one here. He's going to have Knox boxes on those so they have full fire department access. So like I said, we're working through final inspections right now. We think we're about 30 to 45 days out most, and hopefully be back in front of you guys for an occupancy permit.
So, Mr. Levecchia had some concerns with the fire apparatus. I think it was trying to get around building 2, and there was some talk of maybe putting in an access road or something.
No discussion of access road. The fire department at one point had wanted the final materials to be removed from here, to our knowledge, and then he just wanted full access back here, which we believe he's on board with now. The last report we received from him is he was comfortable with all the access. All of the fire equipment, the FDCs are up and live, and the fire hydrants as well.
And do you have any concerns from engineering?
I guess, just with the general conditions, you know, the interpretation of, I think it's 27, 28 that speak of occupancy. No occupancy permit shall be issued until all conditions of the decision relating to construction have been fulfilled. And then no occupancy permit shall be issued until completion of all development infrastructure, including site driveways, access ways, and parking areas, drainage facilities, and utilities. You know, I guess what's the interpretation of that? Because to me, that sounds like until everything's done.
That's our understanding of why we're here back in front of you guys. It's a phasing modification. So obviously, this asphalt's not going to be in, but like I said, all the infrastructure is in. It just won't be the final width of asphalt, and then obviously some of the sidewalks around the buildings.
But within the phase, everything will be 100% complete.
So this building, all of the access ways, all of the infrastructure, all of the area ways are complete.
And is all that infrastructure's been approved and inspected, the stormwaters and all that?
We are still owed the as-built of the stormwater detention basins.
Correct. All that'll be provided prior to the occupancy permit. That's what we said. We know we have about 30 to 45 days of checking boxes. Obviously, there's reports, there's affidavits we have to provide you folks.
So tonight, what you're looking for from the board is whether or not we will allow a phased...
Correct.
Okay.
And probably a list of things that you would want from us should you decide that you're approving the phased occupancy.
Okay.
And is that interpreted as a change to the conditions 27 and 28, those two I read?
Well, I think that's part of the reason why we made this a public hearing was, you know, if that's the route that the board would like us to go, if they feel that would need to be modified in order to allow it, then that's what we can do. If the board interprets it that all the infrastructure within the phase has to be 100% complete, then that will be provided, and we can provide an as-built that shows that. I mean, this was always intended to be a phased occupancy. There was a large meeting that happened, you know, before the shovel went in the ground with the fire department and the building department. You know, it was 3 separate buildings. I don't think anyone had ever anticipated that everything was going to be done all at one time.
We're fully prepared, whatever the board needs, checking boxes, reports, things like that. We've had extensive reports from all of our design consultants. I think we submit those to you guys. We also do quarterly updates, so I mean, we're workable. Whatever you guys need from us, we can do it.
Does the board have any questions?
Not at this time.
No. Mr. Baldwin?
Did you say that, so where's top coat and where's just binder?
Right now, this is all binder right here. They're getting ready as soon as the weather breaks a little bit. They're going to do binder here and fill those sections in. And then obviously when we have final occupancy, that'll all be done prior to that. So
Okay.
probably right now, we're looking like May, June for final lift on everything.
And when you talk phases, are you talking about 3 phases? Are you talking about 2 phases?
3
If you're
phases. So what we'd be looking for right now is this one first available, Right now, the schedule's showing end of May for this building. This one won't be ready till September, end of September.
I think that was all I have.
And the utility poles, I know we talked about the utility poles, and I know you guys sent in a plan for a modification, for a modification to allow those bump outs.
Correct.
But I thought those were just gonna be temporary and the National Grid was gonna
The
correct
plan,
them.
we're working through that with National Grid right now. The plan is for that to be temporary. We're National Grid's mercy. That's what we're making requests right now for them to relocate the poles to where they're shown on the plan. But again, I mean, we're doing everything we can, but the intent is to keep that as a temporary fix for those 3 poles.
So now if the board did allow the phased occupancy and you have people move in the building 1, how would you then, it just seems like it would be more of an obstacle to change those poles.
That's one of the things that we would work through with National Grid. I mean, that's something we've done before in other projects where they set the poles and then they're able to just transfer the lines over. I think only one of them has a CAN transformer on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that happens all the time in municipalities. You know, poles get replaced and get moved and stuff like that.
And then sometimes they don't and they stay there forever and they look like.
Well, I had this conversation with the building commissioner the other day. I said, what's gonna happen is another pole's gonna get installed next to it. It's probably
Then we'll
gonna
have
sit
a
there for
double
about
pole.
2 months while the other crew comes to move the lines. And then it'll sit there for another 2 months until another crew comes and takes the other pole away.
And you'd be lucky if they only sat for 2 months and 2
Yeah,
months.
exactly.
Because most of the time it's years and years.
Exactly,
and
but
years.
you know, it's the front door to this development. It's important to the owner to have something that looks like it was meant to be.
And you have more people now walking on Route 1 than we ever did. I mean,
Yeah.
I can remember when I was a kid, nobody walked on Route 1.
Correct.
And now it's just, you see it all the time. So I think that would be, that's a concern for me, is those poles.
We know that's gonna be, I don't know if you guys have a lot of experience with National Grid. We just know that's a
I do.
process right now, so.
I do, that's what concerns me
Yeah.
even more.
But I mean, we're
I just
committed to
don't
get
want it
that
stay
done.
like that. So,
That's not our intention or our desire.
okay. Does anybody from the public have anything to say? Any concerns? Okay. You just come up and say your name and your address, please.
Joe Sestito, 11 Applewood Lane. So, what's the loud noise that's coming out of there at night? Because out of the buildings, you know, we can't sleep. It's a real loud noise. I thought it was transformers or electrical or something.
I'm up here for the next 5 days, so I can check it out tonight. That's the
I
first.
mean, you
week.
guys, you're right about it too, you must hear it, right?
Past midnight when I come home, it's all night long.
Yeah.
Is it like a hum?
Yeah.
This is the first we're hearing.
It's a
of it.
huge humming noise. It's coming from the...
It wouldn't be the transformers.
It's like construction or something, or heaters or something.
So that's one concern, it's a huge humming noise. The second
Do you have
is-
heaters in the building?
Temporary heaters right now. It's usually probably for
Probably
construction. We can address that with the
And they're
contractor.
diesel?
We don't want that to be an issue with neighbors at all.
And they're diesel?
Yeah, usually diesel or gas powered,
So that would probably do it.
but I can go there right after
Yeah, I mean,
the hearing.
it's...
Yeah, do
Or-
they need to be on at night?
No, never. Especially not right now. I mean, potentially like on lower temperature nights, they might have to keep ambient temperature up to keep finishes from freezing, pipes from freezing, things like that. But I mean, I can definitely check that out. And at most, it would be temporary.
How long has it been going on?
For quite a while.
Months.
Yeah,
Oh, months?
yeah. I thought it was like electrical or transformers or
Yeah.
something to
Why
the
didn't you
building.
call?
Well, I've called, yeah, I'm not gonna get into that now, but nothing changes.
I take those phone calls and it doesn't bother me at all. If we have complaints from the neighbors, we want to be good neighbors and we don't want that to be an issue for you.
Maybe you could share your card with the,
Yeah,
so you can
absolutely.
call directly.
All right.
And if not, just call the town hall and we'll
All
try
right.
to look into it and get answers for you. I'm sure you'll give your answers right away.
Yeah,
But
we
if
don't want
not,
that
and
to
you need
be-
help, call the.
If it is an inconvenience, we like it to be as short term as possible. Like I said, that's the first time we're hearing of it. We don't want that to be an issue for me and neighbors.
All right. The second is regarding the occupancy permit. There's supposed to be an 8-foot high fence along that rear. So I would think before a phased permit, occupancy permit is granted, that the fence should go up, because if you're gonna have people starting to come in and renting it, they're gonna, you know what happens, they're gonna cut through, they're gonna pass through areas. So if they want a permit now, maybe they should put the fence up. and then grant them the occupancy permit.
Is
What are we
there,
talking about?
in the back, you're
Yeah,
talking about that go about
Yeah.
along,
Yeah,
that'll be
in the
it.
back.
We'll get that in for sure.
when does it
Right
plan
now,
for
we have an
that?
8-foot fence on that berm that's getting privacy slat, and it'll be the same going north on the east property line, and we can get that coordinated with the contractor.
Okay,
And there'll be another fence anyways between the phased occupancy and the construction zone.
So these guys they want
Yeah.
privacy.
But I would
Yeah.
think that that would
but I think,
that would
I think more
happen
than
before-
privacy, they don't
Yeah.
want people cutting through.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my other point was there'll be a double layer of protection. They won't be able to get into the construction site to be able to get back
Just to
there
clarify
anyways.
right now, going north on the east property line, there's a construction fence installed. There's finished fence on the south property line to that bottom corner where Longwood Ave comes in. Those get privacy slats, those have to be installed, and we can install the permanent fence on that east property line as well. We can definitely get that done before any occupancy.
Yeah, I think that was a concern. I think that should go up.
Okay,
I appreciate that.
yep, we can make that one of the conditions. Yeah, we'll definitely put it. Todd?
Would it be easier just to have them point at the plan
We're
that they have right here?
talking, I believe you're talking right here. I'm sorry. What was your-
Joe?
You're over here on one of these properties, right? You're talking about this fence. So we have fencing
Yeah.
installed all the way to here
Yeah.
right now. This is just regular construction.
Yeah.
Once we get all that in. It actually comes up to here and we go from there.
You gotta make sure you show the board what we're talking about. After.
We can put it on the plan and submit it to you guys.
Oh, no, I'm just like right now,
It's
because
just-
we couldn't see it.
It's this east property line right here. So we have
Yeah.
installed 8 foot from about, so this was all shown as 6 foot. We upgraded and did 8 foot from about right here over to this property corner, and then plan to move that going north to 8 foot with black privacy slats in it. So we can get this piece installed prior to occupancy for sure.
And that's gonna be 8 feet.
Yep.
And it's gonna be black chain link?
Yeah, it's black vinyl coated right now, and then we're putting privacy slats in there. We had looked at doing some white vinyl.
Yeah,
Being
that's what
set-
they had said they were gonna do.
Being set in the woods, we decided it wasn't a good option. It would look dirty and nasty over time. We feel like the black's gonna hold up a little bit better and kind of disappear more, but
That's true. I just put white vinyl in my yard, and now that I have it, I'm looking at everybody else's and I'm like,
yeah, especially
they're like, oh,
all
no
this-
maintenance. I'm like, everybody else's looks terrible.
Yeah, all this right here is kind of in like wooded area.
Yeah, the trees do a number on
Yeah.
it. They'll be green before you know it. So.
Yeah, but we for sure can get that done, satisfying the
Okay.
requirements.
All right. Does anybody else have anything? Just come up and state your name, please, and your
James
address.
Ozuski, 2 Applewood Lane. I'm an abutter, and from the beginning, there was supposed to be an 8-foot between, let me get my bearings, on all the abutters from the construction. So that would have been,
So we're talking about right here.
right, so it would have been from here, all the way through your property to the,
This is the property line right here.
yeah,
That's what we're talking about right here.
all right, so that's gonna be the 8-foot,
Yeah.
a black, what, chain or?
Black chain link vinyl coated with vinyl slats, privacy slats.
And you want to get a occupancy permit on which building? This one. So you want to go for a permit on this.
Yeah, this would not be till May or June. This is in September.
And you supposing you got your water, your gas, your
Oh, yeah.
sewage and everything.
Yes, sir.
And have you done a fire test with the, passed by the fire department?
Fire department's done inspection so far. There's some things that we did add. He wanted a contact in the garage, so if the garage threw an alarm, the garage door opens on its own. It took us a little time to get that worked out with the electrician. But yeah, all the fire stuff's in right now. They're putting in the dial out for the elevators. Just like safety stuff for fire, like it's, it's accessible route. So you pick up a phone call, goes to the command center in the front. If not, it dials out to the fire department. All the infrastructure's in for that. The equipment's due in a couple of weeks, so that'll be in before we get the occupancy. And then there's a lot of other fire measures that they had us install as well. We have addressable heat detectors. They're all addressable smoke alarms in the units that go dial right back to the fire department. So all that stuff's in, and Captain Phelan is working through those inspections right now.
Do you know the manufacturer of the fire panel offhand?
I can get it for you.
So that's all wired into everything.
Yes.
Usually when they did do a fire pump test, all that's read out readings and all that, gallon flow per minute?
We have all that stuff.
Okay.
All the fire sprinklers, automatic fire sprinklers throughout the whole thing, interstitial space as well. They actually had us add dry heads on the balconies out here that are non-combustible. We did that as part of a comment from the fire department as well.
And that's been submitted to the fire department?
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't returned it in writing as a occupancy permit for that.
No, I'm sorry.
Well, you have to give that all to the fire chief. He has to review it, stamp it, and approve.
We had stamped drawings that were submitted prior to construction that got signed
Right.
off on. He added this after the fact. These
Well,
are
for
his
an
requests.
occupancy per permit, though.
It'll all be as-built and submitted to you guys.
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
has to approve that.
I hope he would. He made the recommendations.
Yeah. I like to see that. But you're saying, so this is gonna get filled,
Yes, sir.
and there's probably gonna be all different age groups
Oh, yeah,
living in here.
they're market rate apartments.
You're gonna have construction going on. Who's gonna be the babysitter?
The contractor.
Yeah.
The general
I don't feel
contractor.
safe with that.
Their office is right here, and like I said, I'm available as well. Chairman knows, I take phone calls at whatever time.
Yeah.
If you guys have complaints, feel free to
Do you
reach
ever
out.
have kids?
Yes, I have.
You try watching them?
I have 4 kids at home.
You try watching 4 kids?
Yeah.
You did better than me.
Yeah.
I
One
couldn't watch
special needs
one,
and
never
stuff.
mind. My concern is you're gonna have children in this, once kids get out, they're gonna run. You're gonna need an army to watch these kids, that they don't get into construction.
We
Once
agree.
they see things going on, they're Tonka toys, they're gonna wanna play.
Agree. So we have, this is all locked fence right here, that the fire department has keys for in case of emergency in these other 2 buildings. And then, there's plenty of play space for right here and right here. There's amenities behind the first building. So all the amenities will be available in the first building by the time they're as well.
The other 2 buildings that are being worked on right now will be completely fenced off and separate?
Yes, ma'am.
In
Yes,
the,
ma'am.
you won't have
Totally
contracted
separate
trucks
construction
going?
access and everything, yeah.
Okay, and most of your parking is underneath anyway, not?
Yeah, so there's
Building.
40,
Will
there's
you allow
40
any
surface
park-
spaces and 58 under the building.
And so there will be some people parked in that front, but there's a fence that,
Correct, yeah, this
because my
part.
concern was when I first heard of, is if the trucks are going back and forth to those other buildings, are people gonna be
The construction
parking
access
and getting
stays right here to the north, and it stays within the fencing at all times. They're not supposed to be out in
out?
here.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, would that include deliveries and demo of equipment?
Everything.
Construction
Would
would
go
totally separate
under-
from the living.
So the vehicles, when they're demobbing the site from the back, would go which way?
When they're demobbing, we come out here, in front of the building is about a 20-foot drive aisle that goes in front of the building and then out to the north.
So in between the building and the red fence?
Yeah. And again, we've done this a number of times all over the country. We don't want our residents interacting with construction at all. We take that very seriously.
And of course, there's enough room between here, I don't see the scale or measure it.
We can scale
For
it.
fire apparatus to be able to get through.
Well, the fire, yeah, they can access from right here. They have a Knox box on this gate coming in. There's a active hydrant, and then the standpipes are active as well. So they have access right here, and then they'll have access all up here.
A list.
All right, so you got one hydrant here?
You have a hydrant right out here, there's a hydrant right here, and there's a hydrant right here. That one.
Yeah, the fire department chose all the hydrant.
The last one?
They set the hydrant locations up.
All right, so all these, right, and had their flow tests and all that.
You have experience in fire, don't you?
Yes.
I can tell.
Yeah, but my concern too is getting the fire apparatus if they have to turn around.
Well, that's why they have all this turnaround right here. And then Captain Phelan's come out and look at this, they'll have all access to this as well.
Yeah, well, this looks like enough. This looks tight.
Well, this right here, they'll have access here. This will be Knox boxed
Yeah.
off, so they'll have access to do a U-turn.
It's like a 50 scale plan, so it's a
Yeah.
little deceiving.
Yeah. No, my concern is about the children, because they can be intuitive. You can try locking them out, they'll beat you. So I think, for safety wise, you're gonna have family. You say your maintenance office is back here.
No, the construction office is back.
Construction back.
We'll have on-site property management. Typically, the property manager lives on-site as well as the maintenance
Yeah,
manager.
and keep in mind, these are 1 and 2 bedroom units. They're not gonna be
Yeah,
giant
so that's the
families.
maintenance manager. How about security?
You can have security as well.
I mean, if you're gonna have kids, you have active construction going on.
We've done it before, we've hired
Yeah.
security patrol as well. We have a relationship with Securitas, which is pretty big up here.
Yeah, because kids are gonna, they're gonna be curious.
Oh, I agree.
They're gonna wanna see the Tonka toys, the guys working, all this and that, what's going on.
Up there.
Um, Yeah.
Yeah, he had some issues.
But,
Okay.
Rick should have.
let's see, what else can I come up with? I should have prepped a little bit before. You were talking about the electrical?
What about it?
Yeah, the temporary poles are,
No, they're not temporary poles. National Grid came in and set these poles.
yeah,
They were placed, and there's 3 of them that kind of sit in the accessible walkway, so we have a temporary fix for that right now. We're gonna try to work that out with National Grid so they put them in the proper location. Obviously, that takes some time, but we have the accessible pathway all the way up to the entry drive.
so you're all underground to each transformer for each building?
Once you get to the property, it comes underground right here, and then everything on site is underground to the transformer. All the infrastructure is in.
They're dry transformers offhand? They're not oil?
There is oil in them, correct?
They are oil?
Yeah, and that's all spec'd by National Grid. It's got stone surrounding it,
Containment pads,
containment pads, everything.
standard detail.
And is there they got a drain inside, it goes to a certain wet well?
It's all the National Grid spec.
And
They spec
it's a
that.
biodegradable oil, so it's like a vegetable oil, it's not like
Well, the other, yeah,
It's
before.
not like-
Right.
motor.
But I think that they're filled with a containment that
They
does
built a
link it,
12 by 12 containment pad around
that
it.
holds the
Correct.
oil capacity inside.
But these things don't really drip, they either fail or they hold it, one or the other.
Well, that's all I'll excuse till I have a follow-up, thank you.
Edgar, 6 Applewood Lane. I just want to make sure that privacy fencing is alongside our property as well.
You're over here as well, right? You probably didn't see it. So we're talking about right here. There's a fence that goes up here and then heads to the west. So we have this installed right now, just the coated chain link.
Yep.
That gets privacy slat. And then this will be the same. We can have that all installed by the time.
Going all the way through?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? No? Okay. Anything else from the board members?
Not at this time.
Okay, so tonight would we be looking to entertain a motion to modify the current conditions to allow phased occupancy and then continue the current, public hearing to next week, our next meeting, which we could work on a list of conditions that we could present to you and then we could
Sure.
see that we're both comfortable with those and anything that's outstanding still. I know I think there's some fees that are outstanding maybe to the building inspector, building department.
Not that we're aware of, but
Not that
if
we're
there
aware
are,
of.
let us know.
Yeah, so we'll work on that at the
Yeah.
next meeting, and does that sound good?
I know, yeah, we
Everybody?
paid for all the building permits early, like May of 2022.
Okay, I'll follow up with him, he just
Yeah,
mentioned.
if there's something outstanding, just let us know, but we're not aware of anything.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I would just, in preparation for the next conversation, we don't have to talk about it now, but something to think about. Any restoration work on the bank on, I don't know if that's north.
South.
On the south side, with people living in that building, just how that would work, where it seemed like there was staging going on.
So you're
Out
talking
back.
about like kind of right here, where the parking is? This stuff's all
And
planted.
right there.
This is all planted and retained right now?
But down below, where the silt fence has been
They'll maintain all that.
overtopped.
We're on top of the contractor about that. We'll make sure that the silt fence gets maintained.
So the goal would be to finalize that bank before.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was some erosion concerns, right?
Yeah, and it's
Kinda
probably
washed
gonna need
away.
a little bit of love, through the growing season,
Mm-hmm.
but that can all be handwork, that shouldn't have to be any.
yeah, this is all stabilized right now. Well, this part is actually retained and then beyond it's stabilized. They have mat and plantings. Obviously, some of them died in the winter. We'll get
Yeah,
replaced.
I would just take a look in case, you need to get equipment down there.
Did you wanna, do I need to schedule an inspection with you or a walkthrough?
No, I would just take a look, because
Okay.
right, tonight is just a concept, and then it'd be the nuts and bolts next time. Just a heads up, would be something I would be
Okay.
wanting to see.
Speaking of plantings, did those trees, there was some trees that were gonna
Yes,
be
ma'am.
planted, 17-foot trees?
Yes, ma'am.
The large trees got planted, the smaller trees will be planted in the next phase here, this current growth.
We couldn't get quite the size we wanted, but they were definitely large trees.
Okay.
We
And
got the
they're doing
biggest ones
good?
the
We got
nursery
the biggest
has.
one, we had to go to Jersey to get them.
Yeah.
We did get them though.
They're doing well so far?
Yeah, yeah, and if they die, we'll replace those too.
Okay. And those, where are those in relation to the fence that's gonna go up?
So they're
They
kind of
planted before
interspersed in the fence. They weave in and out. They're all on the top of this knoll here where the bank is that goes down to Longwood Avenue.
And the fence sits below that, or,
Kind of runs in between it.
okay.
So this was really like all like a wooded area here. So the fence kind of, we placed some on top of the berm, some down below. And then there's going to be some smaller trees that get planted once the weather breaks as well.
I think there's another 6 or 7 of them actually planted.
Yeah, and then there was a few more. Okay, so we'll definitely have some conditions that we'll put, we'll work on at the next meeting. The fence for the neighbors will definitely be one of them,
Yes, ma'am.
so we'll prepare for that, as well as anything that the DPW has, and so we'll go from that. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to allow a modification to the current conditions or if you want to make it the other, I'll just entertain a motion. You guys can make your own motion. I'm not going to take it to say.
Would we wait to make the motion till we have the conditions?
No, we're just going to allow them the phased occupancy, and then we're going to continue the public hearing to the next one, where we'll list all our conditions at that time, I believe. Is that correct?
That works.
That's fine.
I'm fine with that. So moved.
Want to make that motion?
Make the motion.
Okay.
You can make one.
I will entertain a motion to modify.
To modify the occupancy permit and pending a list of conditions to be discussed
allow
at the next
phased
meeting. To allow phased occupancy.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, okay. And then I need a motion to continue the public hearing to, I think it's April 3rd? Is it April 3rd?
Sounds right. Yeah,
You want to just verify that?
no, April 3rd is the Thursday.
Okay.
A motion to continue the public hearing through April 3rd.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We will see you on the 3rd.
Sounds good, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Rick, if you wanted to reach out about the noise that these,
Well, like I said, I'll be up here for a few days. We'll check it and I can either email the board or,
It's at night.
yeah, we'll check it out for sure.
Probably, if you think there's heaters and there's probably large capacity heaters or something trying to dry up
That would make sense.
faster or something.
And if they are, they should go away very soon, but we'll get you folks answers for it. And like I said, we want to be good neighbors. We don't want to be up at night and stuff.
Yeah, maybe even if they could turn them off
At night.
at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock.
All right?
Right.
And would you follow up with us just on that too?
Yes, ma'am.
Follow up with Kevin on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Or, well, you can't call him.
I have your guys.
Okay.
I'll shoot you an email and just let you know what's going on.
Okay.
Hopefully by tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, come back. I don't like Mr. Chair. It's a lot of pressure.
It is now time for the second hearing, Berthold Extension definitive.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
If you have any concerns or any issues, please reach out to us, let us know. We can't help if we don't know.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Berthold Extension?
Yep. Right on time.
That podium, huh? That podium should be moved up.
Yeah, it was pushed because of the dog park meeting last night. It was crazy.
Hello, you want me to pull the podium?
My name's Mark.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Is the speaker on? Oh, here's the speaker right there on the
Right there.
corner. That's fine, unless you need the podium, but I think.
Yeah, I can talk loud.
Hi, well,
My name is Mark Chapdelaine. I'm here on behalf of Ralph Tucci and John Tucci, American Residential Construction. We're seeking an extension of the subdivision permit on Berthold. We technically expire on May 2nd, however, we wanted to get in ahead of the game for once and give you an update of where we are and hopefully request an extra year. We are moving along. I know there was some concerns when we were here last year about the time it was taking. This has been a long project. However, the site's been fully cleaned up at this point. We've got the footings poured for Lot 3, which is the lot that's straight ahead when you're going down, where we've had the inspection today for the rebar, and we're expecting concrete to be poured hopefully Monday, weather permitting. So we're moving right along here. Lot 2 is in the process of getting the house lot signed, the location of the foundation signed off on. The water's been signed off. Sewer's been signed off for a long time, and we're here seeking another year.
thank you.
So that was, when you were here last time, we didn't have any signatures on the sewer. Maybe something we can,
We can check into that.
okay,
When I was last here, there was nothing going on the site.
right. But there was, you had brought the builder's attention that there were no inspections that were filed actually with the DPW. So just some of you guys could look into, see if they're
Certainly follow up on that.
done and who did them. The big question is, how's the knotweed coming up there?
You know, for the last few months, there hasn't been one knotweed sighting there.
Well, it's winter.
I noticed we have. I'm sure that's why they're here.
You got my sarcasm.
I will say this though, in defense of the knotweed, I have some at the end of my street, and it stays all winter. It's not green, but it's there. If you pull it out, you know what I mean? If it was gonna come back, I think you'd see it. If they did pull it all out though, correct? You pulled
Yes,
it out.
they
Yeah.
They
So,
did everything they
yeah.
could do. I
Right.
mean, it's an invasive
Yeah.
species. It's not unique to this area. They've done everything they could do to remove it. And hopefully,
No, I have to say in my area, next to, because we spoke.
Could you just come up and
Oh,
say
yeah,
your name? Sorry, your name and your address. And you have to speak kind of near the microphone so they can hear you.
You know, I don't need a mic, my mouth.
It's not for
That's all right.
it's
That's
for the
all
recording.
right. Okay, Mallory Angelakis Martinez, 16 Fisk Avenue. I abut Berthold Street. So last year, I have to say that Mr. Tucci did come and they ripped up a whole, we had already ripped up a section, but then he came and he actually finished it and put plastic down. And I have to say that it kind of deterred it from growing, because my daughter and I, she's awesome, we went down and we're ripping it up, and the weeds were just nothing. I mean, I almost think it's dead. So I'm kind of not looking forward to it, but kind of seeing if not having any type of sun and kind of keeping everything off of it and having the plastic, and then we put mulch down, will hopefully maybe kill it off. So that's on my section. Now I know that on yours, I saw that, you know, you did the same thing too. So we're hoping that maybe not solve the problem, but I'm crossing fingers that putting the plastic down and putting the mulch down has now maybe killed it off.
So the builder has worked with you guys to,
Yeah, Mr. Tucci definitely has worked with me, I can only speak for me, and has put the plastic down and put it where I wanted it and everything, and put the mulch down, so I do appreciate that. So I'm hoping that it stays away, but we're not gonna know anything until the summer comes and it starts growing, but.
Yeah, well, we can't guarantee that.
Of course, you can't, no, I mean, done enough research that it's like,
that you did
it's
take
a big,
so.
yeah, I mean, so.
Good.
All
Hopefully it
right.
stays away. Keep the
Yes.
plastic down, suffocate it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, I think so.
Does anybody else have anything? Mr. Baldwin?
Do you have have you submitted a general schedule of your timeline for finishing the project?
We have not yet. The February being everything frozen, it kind of stalled some of the foundation work and the digging that they wanted to do. However, they have gotten everything cleared and cleaned. The anticipation is that 2 houses will go up this spring, and before occupancy permits can go up, the road has to be finished. So I think we're in a period here where things will be considerably completed in a short term.
So what does, a rough number, what does a short term mean?
November?
Right. I know in the past with subdivisions that were continuing on a regular basis, we asked for basically a kind of a rough, clearly if it rains for a week, things are going to get delayed, but a rough schedule of how you saw yourself completing the project in the next year.
Well, this project is largely, substantially moving in the completion status. At this point, the binder coat is there, and it's a question of where we are in the construction phase of the first 2 houses. Once those are completed, the road needs to be completed before we can get occupancy permits. So everything's going to kind of happen at once. So I would say at this stage, we're looking at the next 8 to 10 months of time that it will take to get the curbing in, and hopefully we get it in before the winter.
I will say, John comes in and updates me periodically, so we kind of get a feel of what's going on.
I just know we were trying to get to a point where when people asked for extensions, they also kind
Yeah.
of provided a rough schedule.
Okay, you can get us a rough
But,
schedule. That's fine.
how do we ever make out the wall?
Well, we got
I haven't seen any plans or...
we have a drawing from the structural engineer. And he certified the wall as being structurally sound. Aesthetically, it does have some issues, but structurally speaking, it's not going anywhere. So it abuts the wetlands, so there's not a whole lot that can be done to clear the way it looks, but it's structurally been signed off on by a structural engineer who's provided a stamped plan, and I believe that was provided to the DPW, but the building department has indicated that they're taking ownership, so to speak, of the wall, and that it's within their jurisdiction, and they'll be certain to watch it through this process.
So I reviewed this and I'm familiar with these revisions. What I had pointed out, and through the building inspector, we allowed to defer to occupancy. The site plans call for a geotechnical analysis as well, and it shows a battered wall. So we'll need some sort of clarification on the subgrade as well when it comes to the stability of that. The concern being, the goal ultimately I think would be to turn the road over to the town, and without knowing the subsurface and the integrity of that wall could be an issue. So the plan seems to show what's in place. Granted, I don't think it will affect tonight's decision, but just to be on the record, I think until the geotechnical aspect, along with the structural aspect, is resolved, it'd be hard to accept that wall as it is, being on a wetland.
In the present time, what we anticipate now is that this will be a private way with the homeowners association maintaining the roadway and the wall and the drainage. If we get to the point where it's being turned over to the town and we're petitioning to turn it over to the town, we'll certainly address those issues.
Well, part of it was they'll have equipment on site and can address the road and the wall while building the building. So, you know, I guess if the new stance, and maybe if we want to wait till next week, if you're, don't need it till 5/2, you guys could regroup. I think it'd be good for the board to know if, you know, and maybe you guys are going to defend this wall, but it was talked about during the building permit that, you know, some investigation, if not redesign, would be done. So.
And the building inspector has been working with Mr. Tucci on that issue.
Okay.
I don't think it should impact the ability to get the extension here tonight. We are moving forward. We're trying to get this done. Certainly, as we ask for lots to be released, or we ask him for the road to be accepted, again, that's a different period of time. I certainly respect what you're saying as far as the machines are on site. Now is a great time, but there is a geogrid on that portion of the roadway. So the wall is structurally sound, and the building department is aware and working with them if there is any issues.
Right, and I'm not debating whether it's structurally sound or not. I'm just acknowledging that it doesn't match what was on the original design with the pre-qualifiers of a geotechnical report. So, again, I know you guys are out there working.
If I may, that wall failed once already. And this was pushed back into place. I don't know if Todd remembers the cheeks of it. We're now listening to the outside. I don't know what winter's done to it. We haven't been up there. With the frost push, it hasn't been pinned properly.
It filled back in, I think, 2010. It was completely rebuilt. So I don't think it's not a recent, it wasn't just put back together, it was rebuilt at the time, and there hasn't been any issue since.
Same block and
Yes.
rebuilt, that's what I'm getting at. What the engineer is saying, it's not what was specified on the plans as what you were going to build there to begin with. Am I right? And he's asking for a geotech to do some borings because you're coming across wetlands. You could have 6 feet of clay and mud that all of a sudden just, and that road's gone, along with all the utilities that you're bringing in there. So we're just looking for a surety for the town that this is, we're in the right direction.
Understood.
It's not going to stop you with something that's going to come up, so we're bringing it to your attention because it was the condition on the original approval.
Understood.
So
There is a geogrid there. The road's not going to collapse.
do we have any questions? Anyone else in the audience that wants to speak in favor or against?
Yep.
Please come up.
Yeah. Do I have to repeat my name and everything again? So just when I look at the wall, and this was last year, that knotweed and everything is growing through where each of the blocks are. So I don't know how that's going to affect the structure of the wall at all. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I just had a question on the sidewalks. Like, how far are the sidewalks going to go on to Fisk Avenue? Like,
I don't have a plan in front of us.
okay. I was just curious on, is it just going to end at these?
It should go out to the main road.
Okay, and go out like to the right?
It could be on one side of that, could be on, it depends on what was approved
Okay.
from the old board.
Okay.
It's not all that came before the members of this board.
Okay.
Something that we can research.
Okay.
So it's not going to stop them.
Are you
It's
familiar?
shown
Is
on
it-
that plan.
It's on your side.
Yeah, the
Tie
side.
and Fisk.
It's going to go
the rotary, then the south,
One side.
to the right.
toward Essex Street?
On the Essex
When you
Street
come
side
out
or the-
to the right?
Essex Street
It's on the
side.
Essex Street
On
side.
the street,
of
side. It's going to go down,
sidewalk.
okay. Yeah, and that, all the weeds and knotweed are all growing out of that, so I don't know how that, affects the
Well,
structure.
if they had a structural engineer look at it,
Yeah,
he would assume all responsibility.
okay,
And because it is structurally, we'd own it for a
Right.
minimum of 7 years.
okay,
So
okay.
board
Yeah.
members, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience?
Okay.
You get a motion to
Motion to close the public hearing?
close the public hearing?
So moved.
Can you get a
Second.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Public meeting is closed.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the extension for 1 year, for the Berthold extension.
I'll second that.
Motion, you get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Will that be extended to May 2nd of 2026, or would it be from today?
A year from your last permit.
It'll
But
be,
your
it'll
last-
go from May 2nd.
So May 2nd, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And if you could get us a general, ballpark
Timeline.
timeline,
I'll put together
schedule.
a schedule.
Schedule.
John Drop.
And then, obviously, we know things come up, but if you could just get us a basic timeline or
Understood.
schedule, that would be great.
Much appreciated, thank you.
Thank you. Look at next.
Moving forward, this next meeting is a continued informal discussion. Chase Bank, 180 Main Street, site plan review modifications. Yeah.
Good evening. For the record, Nick Dewhurst with Bowler. I guess I'll kind of give a summary of what's transpired the past 2 weeks. At the previous meeting, we discussed an alternative layout for the 10 additional parking spaces. This alternative layout came as a product of a sketch that was given to us at the previous meeting from Beta. I understand Gary's here with Beta. He can potentially speak to that, but since then, at the previous meeting, we were asked to provide a fully updated plan set incorporating those changes, which we did early last week. Since then, we actually received a written comment letter from Beta yesterday afternoon, which we reviewed, revised our plans per the comments, and issued some written responses over email. I understand, we just submitted these plans today, so totally understand if you haven't had a chance to review them. The changes that came between, the set that was submitted today versus the set that was submitted about a week and a half ago are really minor. I can actually just kind of walk you through them. So the first and really only layout change is we added some additional landscaped area here by reducing the sort of backup space for this last parking space in this row up against the building to 5 feet wide. Previously it was 9 feet, and we also trimmed off the length of that space as well to be 24 feet. The other change...
Which one did you change the site of? I'm sorry.
So it's this area right here.
Okay.
And it added, I believe it's about 240 square feet of additional landscaped area. Additionally, the Beta had a comment about kind of our limit of work up here and where that saw cut line for the new pavement was going. They recommended pushing it out to the middle of that drive aisle just to avoid any potential, construction issues that could result in some puddling there just due to the existing crown in the drive aisle. Other than that, the other changes on this set, we just added additional landscaping to this area, as well as additional landscaping in this general area here. I think with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. Avi Schoss with the Grossman Companies, the property owner for this site, is here tonight as well. If there's any questions that the landlord can help answer, that he is available.
I have a question for you. Why do we need these additional spaces in a time when most people don't even physically go to a bank anymore?
So
They do everything on their phone.
contractually obligated to our tenants to maintain a
So
certain
these
amount of
spots are for Buffalo Wild Wings?
for everybody, specifically the anchor tenants. We have to keep a certain amount of spaces or we're in breach of those contracts.
So my question to you, sir, is, Madam Chairman, if you don't mind, through you. They weren't on the first set of drawings that were submitted,
Yes, that was a mistake.
and I'm sure that they were viewed by you?
No.
Okay, so just bringing the board
Yeah.
up to speed as to where we're going, so.
Yeah. So we get that you guys had approved a plan. If that plan is unapprovable by the landlord, this is a plan that is approvable. It still represents, a significant improvement in landscaping and, parking, and I think everybody, landlord, tenant, other tenants are generally happy with what they see. It's more in line with what we agreed to when we got into the lease with Chase. So if the board sees fit, as the landlord, we're happy to approve this one. We won't have to do it again.
Well, you don't have to approve it, we do.
You do. But
No,
then
from the owner's perspective,
I just like that other, this, when you live here, and you drive through there, that drive where you cut through to go down to the lower shopping center, it is like the wild, wild west there. And that other landscape plan, I mean, we all loved the first plan because we provided a level of, a better buffer, so to speak, and more of a traffic calming measure than that skinny strip, in my opinion. I'm just not
no,
crazy
you're
about
100% correct.
And I definitely, we loved the fact that it was gonna be a bank and you didn't need all this parking. This parking here, to me, just seems like unsafe and kind of unnecessary. I understand, I mean, my first thought when I heard you needed more parking was it definitely wasn't for the bank, it was for probably, the only other place that gets busy is
we have
Buffalo
over
Wild.
700 parking spaces. We can't go below certain thresholds for different tenants. And
Yeah.
some of
I
these
mean, there's so
leases-
much parking in that whole area. If you're going per the whole area,
No, it's a specific number for each tenant that we can't go below, and we are.
so which tenant is it that this cuts into?
It's all of them. Everybody
So a
has.
specific tenant needs a certain number, though.
So every tenant
Which number has
every
that?
tenant has their own number. It's part of their lease contract.
it's
That's
also part of the bylaws of the town, that for tables, you have so many parking spaces.
It was, and again, some of these leases date back to
It
the
fit-
1960s, and it's just an
It fit
obligation.
the criteria
Yeah.
when it was first submitted.
Correct.
The only thing, and I think Nick will be honest with it, when it was first at the TPCI meeting, I brought this to his attention because he only had one restaurant there. He was missing one. Then when it came back, the second restaurant, all you did was double Buffalo Wild Wings. It wasn't for the other restaurant that's in the middle of the block. So, but that's behind us. So this is stuff that was all brought out. We'll get into what has been presented tonight. It's a little bit unfair to the board walking in with a set of plans for approval, for what changes.
No, and John, I totally understand that. The reality is, like, the changes,
I know the reality.
well, so the changes,
Can I interject? C301 has a breakdown of the parking for the other businesses. Is that accurate?
That is down based on their lease.
that's from a zoning standpoint, and that specifically speaks to the required per zoning. So that has nothing to do with, designated spaces or anything like that. It looks at it as a parcel as a whole, breaks down the individual uses to come up with a total required parking count.
Okay, well, C701 talks about the town bylaws for planting requirements. So the same way that you don't want to break your agreement for 10 spaces with the tenants, you're asking the planning board to break their rules on landscape requirements. Is that acknowledged?
So I know we talked about this at the last meeting, so I just want to point out that those were listed as, so in our opinion, when you really look at those waiver requests, I really don't think they're meant for, a development like this, which is why we requested them as waivers initially. And on the approved plans, those are, spelled out as waivers on that C701 sheet. This adjusted plan does not alter the need for any additional landscaping waivers, nor change any of those existing waivers.
Well,
So this new plan here, on one of your old plans, you had the table for the parking required. Is that listed in this new plan?
That's been on all plans
So
submitted,
where,
yes.
what page is it on this one?
C301. And again, Jeannie, that's really just, that's looking solely from a zoning perspective. So we do this on all projects. We show, you know, what's required on the parcel, what zoning requires to make sure we're meeting the minimum parking space count, which we are in the approved condition as well as this condition.
So this is just based on the zoning? This
Correct.
doesn't have
Oh, this
nothing
has-
to do with his?
Yeah, again, that table doesn't designate specific
Okay.
spaces, provided spaces to each tenant. It just says Buffalo Wild Wing requires this many, Stop and Shop requires this many. Do that for every use, come up with a total required parking for the entire plaza, and then show that the existing condition meets that as well as the proposed condition.
Okay. So right now, without those 10 spaces, how many of those spaces are left over there in that other lot for Buffalo Wild Wings?
So
And my question for the landlord, I guess, I'm sorry.
So without those 10 spaces, there's no Chase Bank.
So,
Wait,
and that's
so
not
you
what
don't
I'm
have to
asking.
approve it,
That's
we
not what I'm
will.
asking you. I'm asking you the parking. So all those spots over across the way at Stop and Shop,
So
those
we
10
look
spaces can't
at,
be
we look
counted
at the,
towards?
we look at the site in its totality.
Right.
We can't make a material change to the parking that negatively impacts 3 of our anchor tenants. We can't go below 705 parking spaces for another tenant. We can't make a change that changes the
I'm just
parking.
wondering, something so significant like this, why you wouldn't have mentioned this to them prior to
We did.
now when we're this.
We did. It's
So,
just there was a
yeah, so-
there was a blip in communication before it went to you guys.
Yeah, so what happened is we came in with an original plan that did meet the landlord parking requirements. We received a comment from Beta, which was a good comment, about we weren't meeting the minimum queue stack requirements for the ATM. The zoning regulations require 80 feet, which is why we had to kind of alter this area to elongate that drive-through lane. And in doing so, we removed a certain amount of parking spaces. Unfortunately, between us, Bowler Engineering, and Chase, that plan wasn't shared with the landlord prior to us resubmitting that to the town. That ultimately got pushed through. And then when the town when Grossman, the property owner, did have a chance to review future plan, that change was incorporated. They flagged it and said, oh, this doesn't meet what our initial plan agreed to. So it really was just an internal miscommunication. Grossman, the property owner, should have reviewed that plan when those first round of changes were made. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and that's sort of where we are today.
And those two, these are all the same size, these parking spots, right?
Do you mind if?
Yeah, these two are in this corner?
Yeah, yep.
They're all.
Oh yeah, they're all 9 by 18. They're just 45-degree angled spaces. And I'll just point out, so this lane, sort of directly adjacent to those spaces, that's just one-way traffic is typical when you have angled parking.
Mhm.
So that's separate from the drive-through lane.
And that's traffic going that.
That's traffic going this way for, mostly to serve those spaces.
Does the board have anything else? Kevin, do you have anything?
I think it should be displayed the overall reduction in landscape, whether it's lawn area, different trees, shrubs. So the board has an understanding of what they're losing while the bank or the owner is gaining 10 spaces.
Yeah, and I know.
And we should analyze exactly what of these town requirements we are not conforming to, whether or not, as you say, it fits this type of project.
Sure, and those have been analyzed, and that's why we requested waivers during the original entitlement process.
Is it in here?
On the plan sheet?
Yeah.
Yes, so C701,
So now there's not any lawn.
I'm sorry?
There used to be a hydro seed detail. Well, I think it should be analyzed, and maybe the answer is offering the amount of reduction elsewhere on the property or in town. I don't know how the bank would feel about that, but
yeah, I mean,
just don't see it. And being advising the board and having with the MS4 stormwater and just betterments that the town wants to have. I don't know. I don't know if the town wants the bank that much. That I'll leave that up to the board. If it's a deal breaker for them, if it's a deal breaker for the board, but since I've first been here, and thank you for coming, Abby. Just questioned, in that it's a lease agreement and not what's listed is at least something that logically is different than what's been presented.
It's what I tried to convey in my letter, like a month or two ago.
The initial letter, which I commented on, fit the number of spaces that were shown. And then the letter was revised to delete those numbers.
Yeah, I confused the numbers in the letter, which would lead you to believe that we don't need to maintain 34 spaces, but the reality is that we do. So, I mean, what we should point out is that we have a completely compliant site that is all asphalt, and we're adding 2,500 square feet of pervious. And if that's not an improvement, I'm not sure what you consider an improvement. Because right now it drains, and now it's going to drain with 2,500 additional square feet of pervious. And in my mind,
we like the idea of the landscaping, not just the pervious pavement. What we don't want is a Chase Bank that looks like the one in Revere, where it looks like a concrete.
Yeah, there's greenery around it. I mean,
yeah, and Jeannie, specifically, so this existing, I'll call it a pad where this project is going, currently there's about 930 square feet of landscaping. It's just a handful of these mulch islands. Those are being removed, and we're adding, it's actually a 250% increase in landscaped area. And that's not even, if you look at our updated landscape design, in our opinion, we've gone above and beyond providing as many, plantings and
this is all internal to what is a sea of asphalt today. We recognize that these retailers need parking, it needs to drain, there's beautification projects that, we do on a annual basis at the property, but trees die, salt kills, shrubs. We try to keep up with it. I think we do a pretty good job. This is in the middle of all of that. This is actually going to add a significant amount of greenery.
Is there a sprinkler system?
There is.
So
it's not required by code, but Chase agreed from the jump of this project to provide a sprinkler
There will
system.
be an irrigation system.
No irrigation. Chase actually, they specify drought-tolerant plant species. And in doing that, it's really for them to get their LEED accreditation, which is one of the thresholds for that. Chase is very cognizant of their landscaping. It's something that, they try to provide a great looking site. We feel this does meet that. And again, truly, like in my experience on these Chase projects, we did make an effort. Our landscape team did as much as they possibly could to really go above and beyond with the amount of plantings and trees that we're providing to really spruce up the area.
So just looking at this plan, just commenting out loud, you eliminated where the handicap parking is on the back of the building, there was a handicap ramp, a raised ramp.
Yep.
You eliminated that halfway through.
Nope, so that ramp still exists, I guess.
It has to. Between
Yeah,
the two
no,
handicap
that,
bike.
you saying from the ADA parking to the building entrance?
So from the parking to the ADA, no, from here, from where the new spaces are going, you had a second striped handicap.
Yes, we did, because we had sidewalk along this portion, so we had a crosswalk. That crosswalk has just been relocated
So
to
we're gonna
this.
go back to safety. These people get out, they gotta cross across that main thoroughfare that now we're talking is gonna be a roadway.
Nope, so there's actually, the design intent is for anyone who parks here to walk to this sidewalk, walk that crosswalk, and get to the building entrance that way.
Well, this plan just was drafted today, or yesterday, today.
And I, just to reiterate, the changes, it's really isolated to just this area, adding additional green space, and then a saw cut line up here, which is very, technical in nature. So it for all intents and purposes, it's essentially the same set that was received about 2 weeks ago at this point, or a week and a half. It really is just that minor change, which again, is just in response to Beta's comments.
What is the width of that, above the curbing, above where you have here? What are these gonna be, shrubs?
Up here? Yes. Yep, I believe that's 4.5, 5 feet. I don't have the exact dimension right now.
So going back to what I was saying, so if you take the back of the ramp and you park over here, you come across, you can't access this sidewalk in those spaces.
Yeah, so the intent is for them to go to this sidewalk, crosswalk.
I know we want.
We can, if you'd like, we can extend.
Take a couple of these plants out and push it open a little bit, open this.
Then they're cutting through the drive-through line.
Well, they're gonna cut through with nothing for safety.
If that's what the board prefers, I mean,
at least if there was some indication that was a slowdown spot, because there is a
Where's the
crosswalk there.
entrance?
It's been where we had the old one.
Is
And
the
we
entrance?
open up that sidewalk and run this sidewalk to the, right as you,
Yeah, where's the entrance to the back door? Is this the
there's
entrance?
two. There's a back door entrance.
the main entrance is up at the front there.
That's the main entrance.
So.
No,
this
the main entrance is down here.
Oh, so
Over here?
way over here?
Yes.
All right, so we could pretty much assume that
No one's
parking
gonna
here
park.
to go to the back,
That's after hours parking.
which is
Or
what I said
employee
originally.
parking. It's great for employee parking.
I personally would like to see that landscaping, that separation, where you have it now, raised up to 2.5 feet as a bumper, so that these cars aren't driving over that to the outside.
Yeah, I mean, we do prefer, there's 6-foot curbing and then, a 4-foot landscaped
The height
island,
of the
so.
curbing?
I'm sorry?
What is the height of your curbing?
6 inches.
6 inches.
So it's 6-inch granite curbing. I really wouldn't anticipate a scenario where, a car parking drives over that island. I just don't see that.
John, I think the intention is for it to look very similar to what we have out in front of Buffalo Wild Wings today. So no one drives over that curb.
It's not a lane of traffic as we see it, people from town. They don't turn in front of Wild Wings. They come zooming up from down at the mall, and they're heading through that open lane that you see up here at 45, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Through your parking lot.
No, wait,
So Nick, are you sure that's 4
I'm
feet
looking at
wide?
safety.
Yeah.
So that
This right
someone's
here?
not gonna try to jump over that.
So,
6
you know what, I
inch.
do have a scale.
I got it.
So if we just pick that up, and it would shut that lane of traffic from someone walking right out in.
I guess I'm not understanding what you're.
So where right now where he's got the outside island that runs along your road,
Yep.
right here. I'm asking if he can
Yeah,
elevate
it's
this to
4
4
feet.
feet, okay. All right, I
so
thought
we
it was a
stop
lot
these cars
thinner
from jumping through.
than 4 feet.
So these cars that are parked.
They're fine. What he's got here is this used to be a sidewalk.
Yeah.
He just said his curb was only 6 inches.
Yeah, there's
No,
no
we're not.
sidewalk there anymore. It's just plant.
No, but I'm saying,
kind of
what's to
reviewing.
stop these cars from driving right across that? To get out, especially in winter time.
Yeah. I mean, what about additional wheel stops?
Well, anything is better than what's here.
John,
If we elevate this, it's gonna shut that down even for people walking out into that space.
John, if I may, it's 6 inches of curbing, 4 feet of landscaping, another 6-inch curb reveal. I mean, those are the type of landscape islands you see on, projects all over the place. I don't see a scenario where a car parks here, makes the decision to pull out straight. That's
Well, I
not.
don't see adding 10 parking spaces from what you submitted. Like this, we went through this at the last meeting. I said, meet us halfway, and we'll give you 5 spaces and leave the landscaping. So you, Nick, you just draw a straight, this is the way it's gonna be, and this is, there's not gonna be anything. So, and I have to express that with the board. We're asking you to protect those spaces to stop someone from running out in that thoroughfare. And it's a thoroughfare. You were there, you laid the cones out with us, you just couldn't believe what you saw that night, you said it to me. It's a raceway.
Yeah, and John, the reality is, like, this development, this new building, the curbing, all the stop control, we're providing 7 new stop bars and signs throughout this area.
Do you think that stops a car? Honestly, do you think it stops a car?
So
It stops.
If I was a
lot of
traffic
cars.
cop, I could sit there all day and I could make my quarter and go home at 8 o'clock, and I start at 7. That's how bad it is.
And John, additionally, we're providing these sort of we're delineating these drive aisles a bit better and just sort of, it's really, in our opinion, our traffic consultant agrees with this. I believe Beta's traffic consultant didn't cite any concerns with this. Is we're really kind of organizing the traffic here. If you're a car and you're in the existing condition, which I
Mr.
understand.
Chairman, may I interject? I believe this is acting as a real-time review of plans we received today.
Yes, sir.
I think it's, in my understanding, not the proper procedure for the board. I think we should have had time to review these plans if the board accepts the change.
So can I please just reiterate? I understand the plans were given to you today. We submitted a set 10 days from now, which was, it met the week requirement prior to submitting to the planning board. The only difference is this area right here just added a tiny bit of additional landscaping. That's all it did. So the plans that were received, prior to this meeting about a week and a half ago, this is almost essentially the same exact thing. It just adds a tiny bit additional landscaping here. To be honest, the reason that we did issue an updated set today is because, we wanted to help move things along. We thought that it would be beneficial to show the board and its peer reviewer that, we were happy to jump all over those comments and work with the peer reviewer and the board on those recommendations, which is why we've updated those plans accordingly. But the changes are so minimal between this plan that was submitted today and the plans that were submitted a week and a half ago.
But not the plans that you originally submitted. I don't want to go backwards anymore. So what I'll ask you to do, if you have spoken, our consultant is here, I would like to get his.
Sure, absolutely.
John, can I just ask one quick question?
Sure.
Based on what you said, is it fair to say that if we were to be able to come up with something that stops traffic here, that you're more comfortable? So would bollards or something like that are inside the planting?
But they're ugly. But what I'm getting at is the purpose of this board is, number one, is to protect the town.
Yeah.
Number two is to protect people.
Totally understood.
So it's all about life and limb. You're talking about coming out of an alcoholic establishment. We can't control what happens. I've seen them sit there and just step on the gas and do donuts for 10 minutes. So I'm just looking for protection. If someone parks here, their kid ain't gonna run out to that street.
So I get it. So
it's life and limb. You're an architect.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everything you're
It's life
saying.
and limb. It's also protection for the owner.
100%.
You're sitting here tonight saying you don't need it. And if something
I'm not
happens,
saying I don't need it. I'm saying that.
but if something happened, you're gonna say,
So-
you're right.
Would like
It's
a
not-
wooden-
It's not a big upgrade. I shouldn't even open it up and discuss this tonight.
I know, and I get that.
I'm trying to help you
But
get
since
going
this area is closer to Buffalo Wild Wings, if we were to do something on this whole stretch, and in the spirit of, safety and compromise, that was consistent, maybe not bollards, but maybe not 2 feet of granite, which I think could potentially do more damage to people's bumpers, but unless they had a pickup truck, but
Stops them.
it would definitely stop them. But if we were to come up with something
Yeah.
that was that would
We're
be,
not designed.
What about like
I don't wanna
a
be-
wooden
I'm not-
guide rail or something? I think that would,
Exactly.
Yeah.
okay.
So,
It's just, a planner enhances what you've got.
So we are
When it's
adding,
enhanced, it draws people in. It's good for the bank, it's good for the landlord. It's
yeah,
a
but we
plus.
can come up with something.
That's all I'm asking.
Be disguised by the bushes.
That's
We
all
can
I'm
come up with
asking.
something that.
Yeah. Originally, just so you know, we asked this bank to be turned around so it faced Route 1. So that the people on Route 1 are not looking at the back of a block building. And that was totally out. And the first thing they had over there was to pick the trash up.
isn't the front door?
the front door is facing Route 1.
Yeah, the planner wanted the bank with the windows and the whole 9 yards to be facing Route 1 originally.
Like horizontally.
Yeah.
Yes,
A
and
little bit
that's-
more appealing.
It would have been, it just would have gobbled up a.
But yeah, we gave into that.
Yeah. No, you guys, so I understand everything that you're saying. We'll work to come up with something.
That's all I'm asking them.
100%.
Okay, so,
And we really haven't, I'm just what he's presented is what I'm commenting on.
Yeah.
I don't know, Peter? Is it Peter?
Gary.
Gary, sorry.
That's all right,
It's
John.
been a long day.
Yes, I am.
Do you have any comment? I know you probably haven't even seen this yet.
No, I actually have.
Okay.
I actually did take a look at it this afternoon.
Yeah.
Once I got it, I did take a look
I
at it.
think it's an improvement from what he had, but I think he can go one step better.
Yeah, just to let you know, I think there's been a reduction from the original plan of 2 trees. So I think it went down from 4 trees to 2 trees. That was, but there was actually an increase in the number of shrubs, which I think I commented on. But that was primarily because it's very linear now.
Right.
Your engineer's right, that all that naturalized area is gone. That was the island itself. That was that big island that we had right there in the middle of. So all that naturalized area is gonna go away. That's pretty much being absorbed by the those parallel, the angled parking spaces. I mean, I hate to agree with the applicant, but on this,
listen, we're open.
in this instance, it is going to be, you know, a little bit more of a landmark to be able to direct the traffic around the bank building itself, and it will be a little bit better in terms of the fact of what was there now, in terms of the island that was there. So it will be a bigger island. I mean, I'll admit, that 6,700 foot island that we had originally.
That was beautiful.
That was very nice. Even I had to admit, I was very proud of that.
I think the pigeons would have even liked that. They might have
They would've,
relocated
yes,
from the
yes,
parking lot
they
to
would've.
that island.
And in fact, one of the comments I made was relative to the turnaround. I mean, I'm sitting here with fighting for 260 square feet, trying to get some additional. But overall, they have addressed pretty much all of them. And I mean, if we got to provide 10 spaces, I think it's the best they're going to do. In other words, if the 10 spaces have to come in, it's the best they're going to do. It maintains the travel lane around the right side, maintains that island. The island is still quite long in terms of directing the traffic in that direction. So it does do a pretty good job. We actually got a little bit more queuing on the drive-through lane. But the one thing I will say, and I didn't comment on it before, there are still islands out there that are painted that can be brought in, especially within the limits of the area that's being modified. Because when you look at the overall pavement limits, I mean, there's some painted islands that are gonna come back onto it. They could easily be converted. There's one big one. I gotta get up and look at it. Right there.
Yep.
Easily. Very easily. And even that would tend to slow things down.
We can,
Where is that?
Converted to landscape, you mean? Put some trees there, you mean?
Pardon me?
You mean converted to a landscape?
Converted to a landscape, yeah, rather than just a painted island.
Okay.
So as a condition, I mean, if it was the board's favor to approve this with conditions, the landlord would agree to vegetate that island that was Beta just pointed out and work with Chase to get fencing along that stretch of road that would be approved by planner or design or the board if you see fit.
as you know, if you put your mind to anything, you can make it work for everybody.
I agree.
So,
The only other thing I will say is, and this is more for Nick, if you look at the spaces to the east end of the building,
Yes.
the 7 spaces, those are the primers because they're right opposite the, look at the grades. It's pretty steep.
Yeah, and I know you commented on that.
Yeah, I commented on it. When you look at all of the other parking spaces in the lot, 3% is pretty much the maximum.
Yep.
Which is, you know, and I remember back in the 70s when I was designing, that was pretty much the guideline. 3% was the
Well, the
max.
car doors were a lot heavier too.
Well, they were, but.
And Gary, I completely agree with your comment, and ideally we have, 3, even, 2.5% slopes. Our concern is if we really would just be chasing grade kind of down towards this parking area, and it just, it's something we've looked at closely, and it just, I know the bank's comfortable with the slopes that are provided in there. We as the design engineer have no issues with it. I do appreciate your comment though, I do.
That was more, I thought maybe the bank, like, when they see that grade and they get a car parked in, you're gonna have a hard time opening the door.
Sure.
And it's also something, as a holistic property repaving, we're willing to look at in the future when we go through our paving and, our process. So it does come up, and how we hit curbs and making sure everything's compliant.
No, but I think that, like I said, I think the bank, if the bank is considered it acceptable, then, but that was just my recommendation.
Sure, no, totally understand, absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just wanted to point out too, that tonight there was a ZBA meeting, so Mr. Long couldn't attend tonight because he had to go to the ZBA.
Yep.
And, my understanding was tonight we were only gonna be, because I know there's only a few changes here, but we didn't get to review the comments which I thank all of you for turning everything around so quickly. I just don't know if everybody had a chance to read those. So would you be looking tonight to vote that this is a minor change, and then go through, everybody have a little chance to go through the comments a little more thoroughly and let Bob weigh in on it since he's been part of it the whole time? And then
I would
continue it to
prefer
the
to wait
next
for Bob.
meeting, and then we'll vote next.
I mean, just because this, not that there's much of a change, but just because this just came in tonight, the board member that has had a lot of questions was unable to make tonight's meeting. So we could vote it on the next one and just add conditions to it, depending on what the board votes.
So tonight we would be voting that it's
Tonight is just, it's just a general
change, and
discussion. We don't have to vote tonight. We don't have to vote this tonight. We can give Mr.
I know,
Long the
but we can let
opportunity
them know that it's a minor change versus a major, so they don't have to worry about coming back for a public hearing. Or whatever, I don't know, what is the wish of the board?
That'd be great.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, Gina, that's something that we've kind of talked about just amongst ourselves. Because I understand that the board does have to make that decision between minor and major. And I just want to remind you folks that, because I believe, is the only difference that it requires a public hearing? Is that?
Yeah, then you have to advertise it.
Yeah, and I know, like,
It takes a
so,
long
yeah, so we
time.
had 6 public hearings for the original entitlements for this project. We didn't have a single abutter comment or abutter show up at a meeting.
Yeah, it's more of our process.
No, totally, and I absolutely understand that. I think our ask would just be, if this could be deemed a minor, just from a timing standpoint, I think we would really appreciate it. Again, totally understand you guys have your decision to make, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to deem that this is a minor change and to continue it to April 3rd. Give Mr. Long some chance to just review it and weigh in, and then be prepared to make a vote at the next meeting.
So we have a motion that's been on the table now, whether this is a minor or major change. Vice Chair is saying that she makes a motion to consider it a minor change. And can I get a second on that?
I would actually be curious to know the engineer's thoughts on that.
My thought was going to be without that analysis of what is being lost, it'd be hard for me or the board to say it's minor or major. But that being said, I don't typically know historically what constitutes a major and minor. Also, this being a draft plan, and I think it's a great idea by Gary to offset some or potentially all of the lost landscaping with the painted islands. So,
if I may, so Kevin, just in regards to...
I guess, sorry, Rich, if that doesn't completely answer the question, but...
No, I was just curious your thoughts. That helps.
So I just want to give my opinion, what I consider major or minor. What I take into consideration when I'm deeming whether I think it's major or minor is how it would affect, if it's major, in my opinion, it would affect the abutters, or it may have some sort of impact on abutters. This, dealing with landscape, and I think it doesn't have, it's businesses there. I think, and landscaping is very important to us. It really is. It's important to me. I really liked that big island as well. So if we deem it a minor, all we're doing is saying that it's minor. It's going to be decided here between us on what we want to put in for conditions, and maybe the conditions are, as he had recommended, to make some of those painted islands and add some more landscaping in some of those areas, that we could do something like that. So it doesn't limit us in what we can add for conditions by making it a minor. It really, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, Nancy, am I wrong, what the difference between a major and minor is?
No.
Okay. So it's really just that. But it also, a major, you have to re-advertise, and you have to, it's a more timely thing, and I don't think that we need to do that. That's just my opinion. I'm just making that motion. You guys, if you don't agree with me, then you can vote it down. I'm not telling anybody that they have to agree with me. I'm just making my motion. Somebody wants to make a substitute motion? Make a substitute
Take a vote on
motion.
your motion first.
Yeah. Well, technically, if you were gonna make a substitute, you'd have to make it before you voted my motion, but I made a motion.
So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
For Janie's motion? Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not for it, so I'm against it.
So say no?
No.
So motion passes.
Motion passes.
It's a minor.
True to what,
and
it's a
then-
minor change.
Then I'll make a second motion to continue this to the next hearing, give the board some more time to go through documents, give Mr. Long more time in the engineering if you want to look some further at some things. And if in the meantime, what were you looking for?
Just a table showing the reduction of area and quantity
Of the landscape?
whether it's lawn, trees, as Gary pointed out.
Yeah, and I think, Kevin, if I could just respond to that, Gary's letter actually speaks to those. So it highlights a loss of 3,000 square feet of impervious. But that being said, we can, whether it's an overlay or we can give a specific table approved and current. We can break it down: plantings, trees, and lawn area, or.
Yeah, and I'd say by species as well.
Yep. Yeah, we can absolutely provide that. And then I think the only other question that I would ask is, so I'm just thinking through the logistics of how we go about making these changes. So Jeannie, from what I understand, from what you said, it sounds like at the next meeting we'll discuss, potentially adding additional, kind of converting some of these striped areas to landscaping. Is that something that you want us to work through with anyone now prior to the meeting, so that we have a plan at the next meeting, and we'll even submit it prior to next Thursday so that it meets that deadline, so that we have a plan going into that meeting that shows these things that the board can then vote on? Is that sort of what the goal is? And then if there's
Would you
any
have time
other...
to do that? You think you and Todd would have time to do that? Maybe think about those things, and
Yeah, I mean...
if he had some suggestions, he could bounce them off you, or?
So, right now, you have approved, in a approved area. You're now proposing a change to that, so because I wasn't there, but
Yeah.
there was a large landscaped area.
Yep.
So you have an area that you had gotten approved. You've reduced that area, and you've been given some helpful suggestions of areas where you could make that area up.
I think it's going to be hard for us to completely replicate that area.
But that
Absolutely,
comparison,
yep.
that comparison is that's basically what the argument you want to make of that you're putting a good faith effort into making up as much as possible.
Sure,
and
totally.
showing the board that you're making a clear intention to try and fulfill what you were originally approved for.
I think that's totally fair, yep.
So I think that's the starting point is you coming up, you showing us, well, you start off with what the original approved area, including number of trees, shrubs, grassed area, and you said species to it. Then I think it's important, just because that's where all this discussion has come from, is what this plan was proposing.
Yep.
And then what you're now proposing to try and make it up to, or to try and find a midpoint.
Sure.
Because, so you have a little bit of time to be able to look through and look at places where you could create grass
Yep.
islands.
And Todd, we'll certainly do that. I'm wondering if it might even make sense for you and I and Kevin and whoever else to just jump on a call, look at the plan, and together we can look at areas that we can initially look at some areas and come to that meeting with these areas, and we can review it with you guys. If you guys see any additional areas that you think warrant additional attention, then we'll take a look at it. That way we're just kind of...
So how long do you think it'll take you to be able to take your first run at it?
We could have that over by early next week, Monday, Tuesday.
Okay, so you're basically proposing so let's start with that, and you're
Yep.
also maybe asking for a follow-up of maybe a meeting Wednesday to Thursday.
Sure.
of next
So
week.
I think what we can do, I can send you an updated plan with our initial kind of stab at these additional landscaped areas.
Okay.
And then in that, same correspondence, I can say, do you have time for a call in the next few days? Then we can just share screens, look at it together. If, like I said, if there are any other areas that you identify as, you think warrant additional landscaping, happy to take a look at it.
I won't participate in that.
Just for everybody's, this area is the only area that Chase has. Anything outside is landlord's property. We'll work with you. I mean, how I would prefer it to happen is that the landlord, is granted a condition as part of this, or a conditional approval that the landlord request
We could
land
use a condition.
not to exceed
Based on
X amount of
non-discussion.
square feet, so long as it doesn't
So
remove.
do you and the landlord need to talk a little bit before you talk to us?
Yeah, we'll be, yes, before we send a plan to you, we'll make sure that us as the Chase team and the landlord are kind of on the same page.
So are you willing to do some more
Yeah,
landscaping?
I already
there?
said to get things wrapped up. We're happy to provide what Gary pointed out. I want to be reasonable about how much landscaping and additional space we're talking about, but we're certainly open to beautifying the property. It's, again, everywhere else is asphalt. There's a lot of salt. Shrubs and grass don't have a long lifespan, and we continue to replace them, but it's...
So right now, that's your storage area for the mall.
Yeah, that's where
That's
snow
all your
is
snow
stored.
basically goes.
Yeah, in all of those areas. So we will be happy to, to work on, greening up what we can, but my point is, let's focus on what's generally around the Chase building. So, if we want to
So we
work
could make it a
on...
condition upon occupancy that we have your input from the
Correct,
owner.
yeah.
Yeah, but how do you enforce that?
And is the tenant,
I don't know how you...
Well, they don't get their occupancy permit.
the tenant that owns the spots in the perimeter,
No one owns them.
where the trucks used to park? Or do they still park there?
So no tenant owns any parking. There's no ownership. But
So you couldn't
trucks
help the
will
bank
queue
out
up.
with 10 of those spots?
So
You said every spot.
there's
you have a
there's
commitment.
743 parking spaces on site. We cannot go
Including
below.
the ones with the trucks?
Yes.
Before this. Like you want to get into the real numbers, I can tell. We can't go below 705. We're getting rid of 79. So
I'm
we
just
need to
asking
sleep-
about the ones with the trucks.
So every spot is counted, every single space.
But
So it's
that's
just-
not a tenant, that the landlord maintains possession of those
The
spaces.
landlord maintains possession of everything.
So those aren't allotted to another lease agreement.
Everything is in common, and we can't lose, as I was trying to provide some milestones, we can't.
Well, you
lose.
said they were, each lease listed a number of spots. So
Yeah.
whose lease?
So Stop and Shop says you can't go below 743. So I can't.
Could somebody let someone park trucks out there for?
The landlord allows trucks to queue up for deliveries, correct, because those spaces are seldom used. It doesn't mean they're not obligated by,
Actually, they were
legal
doing that
documents.
illegally.
Correct.
That was illegal when they were leasing those spaces out. So yeah, you're right. They were doing that. Ancillary use,
Look,
not
transfer
allowed.
station. I get
Oh,
what-
before we bought the property in 2022, I can't speak to what was.
A lot
Oh,
of
you
truck
just bought
patrols
the
that
property,
park
you're a
there.
new landlord since
Correct.
2022? Okay.
Kevin, if you have any other questions or concerns, we're happy to respond to anything. I know we've offered to, set up additional meetings and happy to still do so. Yeah, I think we just want to work.
I'm
with
just
everyone.
trying to advise the board on what I feel is most appropriate. And when we talk about spaces and you provide a satellite image that shows nothing but empty spaces, and me coming from an environmental engineering, site work background, something I defend, but we have other things on the agenda. We've spent a lot of time on, every week it's a different plan. It's not what I envisioned when I thought I'd be helping the board out, just spitballing ideas,
Sure, I feel like we've worked in good faith with the board, and again, this alternate layout came from the town's peer review consultant to an extent, that there were certain alterations made to it. I feel like the reason that we're coming with different plans every meeting is because we're having this kind of back and forth with the board and soliciting feedback and integrating it into our plan. And we're trying to do the best that we can by to satisfy the board.
And it was mentioned.
That's not completely true.
Well,
There was
with the
there was an
additional-
approved plan.
yeah, sure.
And it turned out that that's not what you wanted.
Correct. Well,
And now it's kind of,
It's the landlord that's
well,
changing
that's,
it.
But that should have been worked out before they even brought it before us.
Yep, nope, absolutely,
The
John.
landlord and the engineer.
So what's the total number of spots on the entire site?
743.
743, and that includes all those spots that he's
Today.
talking about,
Today.
all of that?
Yes, and in the proposed condition, with these changes, we're at 670.
and you said you needed what was your,
So it's 705 counted.
so your lease agreements basically say,
So when we get those 34 spaces back from this 10-space plan, we're at 704. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So the 670, when you take those spaces away, plus the 34 parking spaces that are shown, gets us generally to the number that we need.
don't you need 705?
We need 705, yes, but we'll find an employee parking space or something behind a building. We're trying to compromise. So we weren't gonna ask for 11, we asked for 10.
And I just want to, it is unfortunate that it, you know, it went this way, right? There was just kind of a misstep on our team's part, a lapse in getting the final plan reviewed or the altered plan reviewed by the landlord prior to resubmitting to the board, and it's unfortunate, but that's sort of where we are today. We still feel, it's just our opinion, of course, I still think this, you know, this project really benefits the area. The architecture looks great. Again, we've provided as much landscaping, plantings as we basically can fit in these landscaped areas. So I think it will. I think at the end of the day, it'll be a project that the landlord, Chase, and the town can be proud of.
Okay, so we're gonna continue. We've got we've made a motion to continue it, and we will see you back. Doesn't sound like our engineer wants to sit with you, so if you want to just make some. Oh, it doesn't even sound like you have any space left on there to landscape. It looks like it's on the landlord, so.
We will work together. They will provide a plan. If you want to make it a condition that the landlord provides it separately from the engineer working with the bank, we're happy. We love the project. We want to work with the board too.
And it is your fault that we lost that island, so.
I guess it is.
You owe us.
Yeah.
It's our fault for putting it in front of you in the first place.
So, okay, well, let's talk on April 3rd.
So you won't be pursuing the building permit till this is resolved?
Correct. I know it was, I wasn't at the meeting where that was discussed. I think the chairman at one point said that it was a possibility, but then I believe the company, the permit expediter who does the building permit for these Chase projects, reached out to the building commissioner, and I believe they were told that it was the building commissioner's preference to hold off until planning had an updated approved plan. I think that's how that went.
That's correct.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you want to make some proposals and send them to Brianna.
Yep.
Beforehand.
Yeah. Sure. I guess if
to look at them, we'll bounce them off Todd.
Yeah, I'll look at the plans. I don't want to sit and help design it though.
Yeah, nobody's asking you to.
No, I think all we're asking for is just, you know, just collaborative,
Feedback, so we can
feedback so
turn this over
that
to
we
the
come
next
to the next meeting and there's, we feel like we're in a good spot.
Okay, we will see you on the 3rd.
Awesome, thank you.
It's the witching hour. It's 9 o'clock.
My pleasure.
Thank you for
Gary,
your
thank you
help.
for coming, appreciate it.
It's overtime, man.
We have a curfew?
We do, 9 o'clock. We're ready to extend this, give them a temporary? Are there any outstanding issues, or are we
I
ready
mean,
to?
they've already got their temporary.
They don't have a temporary occupancy. We have to vote it.
Temporary occupancy for
No, they don't
training
have,
only.
they don't have a temporary.
Yeah, we don't, we
They
have
have a
to
temporary
vote
training.
that tonight. We have to vote that tonight.
They don't have a public temporary.
Right, but they don't need a public temporary.
If they're gonna open to the public, they do.
Well, that's not till the 15th.
Well, right, that's what this is all about.
So tonight, you're here to seek temporary occupancy? But what are you doing? Oh, you already have that?
We already
have a temporary for training.
No, absolutely.
Let Mr. Lucy approach the board. On Tucci's land. Now, HOA, does that have to go by a board? If he wants to put an HOA in there?
We can't talk about it because we already continued the public hearing right now. Well, I'll talk offline with you.
That one's over.
Yeah, I know, that's why I can't continue to talk about it because we've already continued it. We voted to continue.
My other question was, they talk about a wall in the wetlands area.
Mhm.
How close is that, and are they gonna disturb the wetlands?
We're right.
So this would be a really great thing that if you left, you could either come to the next meeting or send us a message that could be read at the next meeting, either an email or a letter. That way we could make sure we were addressing your concerns.
Well,
We can't really
Didn't
do
they
it
go
now.
before you on the conservation already?
I'm on the conservation.
Yeah, I know. Didn't they go already before
Well,
you?
no, we never approved the wall in the wetlands area. He's gonna have to come back, I
It went to the
think.
state because of the wall. It gets shut down by the state and fined.
Yeah. they had to
It
do
was
that.
shut.
Anyway, we have to talk about that afterwards because we already continued the public hearing. We're gonna talk about it again on April 3rd, so come on April 3rd. All right?
Okay,
Only if he's in East Boston.
I just got here the wrong time.
Yes, you came at the very end.
But if you don't think you can make the next meeting, or you're concerned about not making it in time,
Well,
we can leave us, if you send us a letter or some sort of correspondence, we can read it as public correspondence for part of the meeting.
Okay, but it's not on this one.
We already,
We already passed it,
yeah.
right. But it hasn't gotten,
What you
We
passed
continued
was,
it. No, we didn't pass anything. We continued it to,
you passed an
oh, no,
extension.
actually, that
did
is
do this.
extension.
We
Yeah, I
passed the
was thinking of
extension.
that, yeah.
Yeah, and I
sorry.
wasn't here to talk about a wall in the wetlands area. Being on the Conservation Commission,
Yeah,
that's
that's
where
your
I'm,
job. You
that's
guys,
where,
how'd you miss that?
they haven't come to us yet.
Oh, well, they'll get you a chance
They had
then. Yeah, they had already.
They had to go before the Conservation Commission to get this.
Yeah, we wouldn't approve anything until they did it.
No, we haven't approved anything. We haven't approved the wall.
it's also like 11, I mean, how many years old is Berthel?
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah.
Frank would have remembered it 11 years ago, trust me.
Well, he's been shut down for working in the wetlands area.
We'll talk offline. Call me tomorrow.
Shut down by the
Call me
state.
tomorrow.
Where?
At work. Where everybody calls me.
What's that? Thank you, Jane.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
See you later.
Who's up next?
Conservation had to, they were tied up with conservation.
I
in the
make no
state.
guarantees over something that old.
No, but when we first took this back up, it was an issue.
That's what happens when you don't
They
get
had to get clearance
anything
from
your
the state.
divisions.
I know so I remember doing a field meeting out there, it was pretty cold, and the wall was not doing so great, but then I left.
Yeah, Frank would probably know. I'll talk to Stephanie. Anyway, sorry.
What's the next meeting?
Raising Canes.
Next meeting is an informational meeting for Raising Canes, Route 1 in Saugus.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
for the record, Attorney Richard Magnan, 194 Central Street here in Saugus, representing Raising Canes regarding, I think the agenda item talks about a temporary certificate of occupancy. We're actually looking to have as-built approved, as you know from the last meeting, so a permanent certificate of occupancy can be issued at some time when the board signs off, and the business can get open for business. Present with me this evening, Adam Corici from Raising Canes, Sarah Holmes from Raising Canes, Matt Ashley from Boulder, Eric DeBuell from Boulder, and I'll turn this over to Sarah at this time.
Good evening, board and town. We also have Jeff too with ADA. He's our architect of record. I really appreciate first the town, both Todd and Kevin, spending time with my team this past week to review the checklist that was outlined at the last meeting. I believe that most of those items have already been completed or are in progress. Most of those last things are just administrative touch-ups, and we've already met all of the life safety requirements. So we're happy to discuss in any questions or comments that you all have, but we would like to seek approval from the board so we can move forward with getting our C of O.
Mr. Chair, through you, I just had a question on, did you guys get the Mass DOT approval yesterday?
Matt
Ashley with Bowler. They came out and did an initial site inspection, gave us a punch list, which I sent over to the engineering team. Once we got that, contractor went out and completed those items, and then we've reapplied for them to come back out again. As of 5 o'clock today in the system, we didn't have any notification or signal that it was wrapped up yet, but punch list was pretty
Do you know
small.
who came out from the DOT?
I believe it was April.
April?
Yeah. She was
From
on
the
the,
Dennis
she was
office?
on the list at least, the notification. I don't know if she was the actual person, but she was on there.
From the Danvers office?
I'm not sure what office she's from.
So we don't have that letter yet?
The final sign off, no.
Okay.
So you guys reviewed the punch list and went through everything?
No, we didn't get the DOT punch list. We got like an email, but there's also a punch list from Tetra Tech that's out there.
That's correct.
And they also did a review of the as-built. They actually had some comments on that.
Just to clarify, that email I sent you, that was just from DOT's online SHAP systems, and that's how they submit their comments. So what I sent you is exactly what we got from DOT. There was nothing different.
Do I have the board's permission to speak?
Mr. Todd.
Okay, so currently, let's see if I understand it correctly. Currently, you do have a temporary occupancy to go in and get training, correct? Or
Stock and train.
stock and train. And this is the process you're trying to make sure that you have your timeline, because the planned opening is for the 15th, I believe, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so this is a continuing process to try and make sure that you have all your ducks in order to make sure that happens.
Correct.
But you, at this exact second, the temporary occupancy is the real thing that you needed, and you do have that, right?
We spoke with Mike, and he has just asked us to pay a $200 fee by check, and I believe that was today that he made that request, which we intend to get that paid immediately. Otherwise, it's our understanding that Mike had allowed us to do the stock and train.
So I'm trying to put things in order. So the key things at this moment are set, but your intention at this meeting is to try and make sure that you're on, you're putting your ducks in order to be able to get the full occupancy, which would probably be, because the 15th.
You're looking at May, I think. You're looking to be extended to May for planting season for the full occupancy?
We have a landscape bond, yes, sir, but we did go ahead in the best interest, just to go ahead and beautify the space. We've already started planting some and we'll absolutely maintain that. But along Route 1, we've already put those plantings and also beside our neighbor Wendy's.
The letter of acceptance that's been filed by Attorney Magnum, is that acceptable for the DPW?
I'm not familiar with this letter, and
so there was a letter on the storage that runs on the Nickley property, and we asked for a letter saying that Kane's Chicken would own it to the first manhole on Forest Street.
if there was an issue that we believe was caused by that.
Right, so right now, the letter that Richard has produced takes us to the first catch basin?
Right, it wasn't a letter per se, it was a grant of easement in, last year from the Nicholees to Raising Cane's. There was a 1990 easement from the Nicholee family to their cousin across their property to tie into the subdivision that was created on Nicholee Circle of 6 lots that ran down to Forest Street. And I assume, even though I wasn't involved in that subdivision, it was a definitive subdivision approved by a planning board, and that at the conclusion of that construction, the Form K was submitted to the town that turned over the utilities, including the sewer, so that the 1990 easement also put the obligation on the property owner. If the sewer had a problem, it was the property owners. So the Nicholees understand that through the 1990 easement, through the 24 easement, and we additionally had a covenant signed by Raising Cane's that said if they caused the problem, which they haven't yet, but and they hopefully never will,
That's what we all hope for.
they'd be responsible. So you had a 90 grant of easement, 24 grant of easement, and a covenant from Raising Cane's.
And
Indeed.
what we're looking for, so you understand, is for this to be accepted by the DPW.
I spoke to town council
Yes.
today, or yesterday, and yes, that's what he said.
Okay.
Don't have that. And one item I've requested in between the meetings is a breakout of fees that were paid to the town, which would include the I&I fees related to sewer. So Todd and I have explained to Bowler that we plan to review with DPW next week. So we're hoping that we get all the documentation we need this week and then have that meeting next week.
Is there anything additional that you're looking for from all the materials that I've sent over, including those fees?
Well, the breakout of the fees,
in addition to what I've already sent?
So I guess I was trying to organize in my own.
Go ahead.
In my own head, so we've, so you have a punch list from the state, which you believe you finished, but you were basically asking for confirmation from the state of that.
They have to come out again, yeah, and look
Okay.
at it, or sign off on it, yep.
But you believe you're on top of that. But
Correct,
that's one of the things that we've asked about. So you've got a punch list from Tetra Tech, which I realized that we didn't get that to you till Wednesday morning. Have you gotten a chance to review it?
We reviewed it, and the contractor was on site to address any site items already.
Okay.
And the remaining items were largely as-built updates from our conversation that we had last week, and we're in the process with the surveyor to get that as-built update with those additional notes. Not, our opinion is that they're more for future information, but above and beyond what's typically on an as-built. Maybe there's some that we should add, but we're definitely getting those added.
So that would cover Tetra Tech's comments on, they had a punch list, and comments on the as-built.
They had a couple other things on there too, like the curbing and stuff like that, that they recommended to be changed.
Within the right-of-way, they wanted to straighten the sidewalk up so it was a consistent width in the right-of-way, because there was some previous asphalt left is what was there, and the contractor's already gone up and straightened it. I was on site this afternoon, looked at it, and now it's all one continuous width across the whole frontage.
So did they add curb to the left side of that egress?
They didn't.
Because it was eliminated. You called for it on the plan, and your associate said that the neighbor didn't want it, but it's not up to the neighbor to want. It was one of the conditions that was on the plan. That is, you're into a right-of-way, and the neighbor doesn't own the right-of-way.
Where are we talking about, John?
So this is on the entrance coming in and out.
Okay.
We're looking for something to have a little bit of car control. That's going to be an extremely busy, tiny little entrance and exit. And we eliminated the island that was granite curbing in the middle to a paved, striped island. And I believe someone said that's what the fire department wanted. I can't get that out of the fire department.
The island was there to widen it, so there was adequate room for the fire apparatus to enter the site without going into the exit lane, so that's why that was added there. And the curbing modification at the exit, which I think you're referring to, was part of the site plan modifications that we came back in. I think I did 3 hearings on that, along with the force main.
The excuse is what I'm saying. The gentleman said that the neighbor didn't want us to do that. That's not necessary.
The modification of that island was a result of coordination meetings with Raising Cane's and the neighbor, along with like the curbing in between the two properties.
You know who owns that right away though? It's owned by the Nickley family.
Yeah, they own all the land there.
It just gives a car a little bit more protection having a curb there than jumping up on that island and possibly hitting a pedestrian.
Yeah.
No one ever walked on Route 1 for the last 100 years, and all of a sudden, the last 2 years, it's become like it's a normal street. So that was never came before us as a modification. The island came before us in a very quiet manner, not saying that it was going to be changed from granite to a painted island. We always thought you were going to get something that'll hold the guy with the car to stop people from jumping over to that other side.
All those modifications were on our red line overlay with the plan that was brought before the board for their review.
That was the night that we got into the grease trap.
I think we discussed it on a couple nights here, yes.
We spent more time in the grease trap than anything else.
Yep, and Tetra Tech reviewed that at your request. They came back, they had us make some modifications to their liking, and they signed off that they were comfortable with all the updates, and I think he emailed that to the board along with us.
And you have a sign off from the fire department on that now?
We have contacted the fire department multiple times. They don't actually issue anything other than pick up the keys and do their initial inspections, but we have reached out to the fire department multiple times. And they do have the Knox Fox keys. He's walked the site. I've seen him personally on site.
That's all good information. Except what are we left looking for?
So it's I think it's the items I just listed. And also, I think, and this would be the board's decision, but I believe the board's used to, as part of the closeout, a red line, which is effectively taking the proposed plans, the full set, and putting the red lines on those.
Yep, and that was submitted to the board.
Or is it? Is this the one you're talking about?
Correct, yes.
So when I said the proposed, so the original proposed set of plans is multiple pages, that you broke it out into the different portions. But it would be up to the board to kind of say what, that's just what I'm used to the board expecting.
No, you're correct. So I do this professionally, there's a lot going on here. And there's a reason why we traditionally break the pages into, the items into multiple pages to make it easier to digest or understand or to show what's actually going on. So I traditionally, the board is expected, effectively, you take what was approved and you just add the red lines on that. Does that make sense? The multiple page, so you'd have the different pages for the different focuses.
Yes, we understand that, and I think per our discussion from last week, we agreed that we've provided all of the correct plans to you all, and the remaining items were only administrative, and I believe that's why we were seeking that the board approve these with the condition that we continue to work with engineering to just wrap up these administrative items. So we would be happy to provide those as-built to both the board and the town, but I think we were in agreement that we've already completed all the items to satisfy the town other than the few administrative.
I didn't get that coming out of the meeting. I thought in order to satisfy the board, we were gonna get them overlaid on the design plans.
Yeah, which is what I was just,
Yeah.
I think there was definitely, we were going to break it out further to be busy, and I think what Tetra Tech documented in their letter was we'd have like a surface level as-built and then a underground as-built. So one would be for site layout stuff, and underground would just be the utilities, so you can get a better reading on it.
If you just copied onto the Bowler plans, and we've seen Nick, he works for Bowler, he's getting plans in half a day. Shouldn't be that big a deal.
I'm just saying with the board, so I can't speak for the board, but I can advise you that what I'm used to seeing the board approve is these with the red lines on those.
Yeah, I mean, those are modifications. This is an as-built, so it's not a direct apples to apples.
That's the exact point. That's the exact point. So you're taking the proposed and you're showing what the actual built is, but on a scale and in a way that it's very easy to flip through and see, oh, we changed this for whatever whatever changed and whatever, it's very easy to see and it pops out very quickly.
No, I fully understand. I'm just saying when you're comparing it to the previous set, he just changes a color on a design plan. We're taking two entirely different CAD files and merging them and have to put it together. I'm not saying we can't do it, but...
You should be, I mean, I've done CAD. You should be able to isolate the layers, or you turn off the layers you don't need. And they should be in a similar coordinate system. So you're literally just doing a copy and paste across.
But if I may, what I'm gathering though is that when we met, all of the things you were asking to be shown on the as-built are in fact there. It's just she would like us to administratively kind of just break those two things out to be into two different layers. But essentially all the data that you asked for, the O&M, the fact that we have the sewer system, all those details are on the as-built. Like you've been provided that information. We have verified that we built and installed these things already.
Yeah,
per
it's
our
just really
meeting.
hard to read.
Correct, and that's why I asked if the board would go ahead and provide the condition that it's approved, and we can.
You're trying to look at this and determine what's what.
No, but you're looking at this. These are the revised plans of this meeting, correct?
Say that again, sorry.
These are the revised plans?
We're updating it with additional information that the engineering department and DPW have requested to go on there.
And from the punch lists and the as-built review, and you're
It's
also...
all similar, yeah, to our conversations, but yes.
But it's informational things that don't actually, like the sewer information is already, like those are already in an agreement. We've already installed it. Like it's not, I guess what I'm getting at is the plan essentially is not changing. We're not changing anything. We're just breaking it out to two plans, surface and subsurface, so it's easier to read. But the information is the same.
You're gonna say it's more than just two plans.
And then you're changing
that.
But I'm just gonna walk away from that. I'm pretty sure.
Can you read it?
No.
I'm not super worried. I think you guys have an understanding of what the board was looking for an as-built. And then there's, so is there anything else where?
Concom or NIPD's permit or any DEP?
If they, did you guys have to pull a NIPD's?
I don't know, the wetlands out back.
We pulled a SWIP and we have a notice of an active order of conditions, yep. And we'll have to file a certificate of compliance.
So NIPD's,
We're less than an acre of disturbance on the site.
okay, so
Yeah.
it didn't.
But we have a SWIP, yeah.
Okay.
The SWIP through the town.
Less than an acre, you said, right?
It was prepared for the contractor to follow during construction, yeah.
But there was no special permitting for the wetlands out back.
We had a notice of intent that we had to go through. We were ordered a order of conditions, and that's through the state as well.
So
I think it's just local
that would have been to the
jurisdiction.
local conservation commission.
Yeah.
But it also gets submitted to the.
Yep.
There's a whole thing that goes into that.
Yep, and that's active, and it's one of our conditions that we have to close that out within 90 days of obtaining occupancy permit.
I just hate to see us open and then have to close because we don't get this information. There's nothing worse for a business when that happens.
I don't believe, sir, that we would be opening in that time. The intent is that we've already started making all these changes, that you guys would have plans within the next period.
But we have no guarantee of that. You guys have a guarantee because you have a contract with Bowler and your contractor. We don't have a contract with you. So we need it to be on a plan so that we can accept it. So our engineers can accept it. Theirs would go to the DPW, go in a file, so if there's ever a problem, here's the as-built, here we go. So you must have done this a zillion times.
Yeah, I mean, the as-built we presented is pretty typical for what we would submit back to a town. I historically haven't broken out on page by page by page in my experience for the developments that I've worked on, but I can certainly break it out if that's
This will be a good training for you.
Yeah.
You've got to be honest.
I mean, my first... I have good
No, first of
eyesight,
all-
I will say, but I mean, I prefer personally to have all the information on one plane so you can see it all together at once, especially in this condition. But that's my
Does that
preference.
show any landscape features?
I couldn't tell you what it says.
Well, we have
maybe a
a
little
bond
Greek,
to come
maybe a
back and
little
do the
Chinese.
landscaping.
I can't
And we have
read
to
it.
update it for conservation as a
Can you read it?
condition, so.
You can't decipher what you have.
So there would be a final version.
Yeah, but a
of the
full set
landscape.
of drawing, which is required, the attorney will tell you that. Not 11 by 17s.
Well,
I
I think to
submitted full
Kevin's
set.
point, though, we have to come back
Well, that was-
and provide you a final as-built
Gave you 10
after
copies of
landscaping,
everything.
correct?
We do, but it's still
So-
hard to read.
Yeah, or I guess if it was broken out, it'd just be that sheet to see whether it's 701.
Well, no, if you're wanting it, yeah, if you want it broken out, we certainly can provide that, but I think that would be our fail-safe is that we have to provide it for the landscape anyhow. So we're not off the hook by any means. We still have to do that.
I'm just trying to get you to understand. So if we voted you in a temporary, and we didn't get it in the time frame between your temporary and your full, you wouldn't want to shut the business down until your architect or your engineers come up with what we're asking.
I don't believe, sir, that would ever be the case because everybody in this room knows how much pressure they've been under to open this business. And I think that, Kane's has put forward a very diligent effort to meet with the town. Well, I think that the town is wanting Kane's to be
System
open.
that we're looking for, we have not been provided.
Okay,
That's all I'm
so
saying.
what exactly are you looking for tonight? Because, oh no. No, we're never getting out of here.
Put the coffee on.
The agenda says that you were coming to us to present the as-bills and then looking for a temporary occupancy. So is that not the case? What exactly are you looking for tonight? Because I'm confused as all hell.
We would like to go ahead and seek conditional approval of the C of O to continue moving forward with the process. The condition being that we satisfy all of the requirements from the engineering team, which includes the as-built with the multi-layer pages that they've requested, along with the administrative items, any fees, Tetra Tech and MassDOT.
Okay.
Which
So we
are,
don't have-
again, all
conditions.
conditions
of the
and
actual occupancy.
Mr. Lavecchia just wouldn't issue the CO until...
All those
He won't.
conditions.
town, yeah.
It won't until we give them approval to.
Okay,
So,
okay. So,
I
do you
guess,
have anything further? Or?
well, is there any date, because Tetra Tech will need to do a follow-up site inspection, right? To close out their punch list?
Yep.
Any,
Or we can supply them photos,
Requested
whatever their
date.
preference is.
I don't know, the board.
As a condition when we want them all this stuff by?
Well,
You'll-
no, just if they think they've satisfied, because I would think the board would want Tetra Tech to verify their punch list was corrected.
Yeah.
So whether he's suggesting by photos, I don't know if they want to request Tetra Tech to come back out.
Yeah, Tetra.
Is one thing we could help move forward here.
Okay.
If you have a date, is everything done?
All the field work has been completed on Tetra Tech's
They
list.
completed it the same day yesterday when we
Yep.
got the information. I think we got it at like 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
and it was done by the end of the day.
And all 5 of us walked the site and can confirm that that was the case.
So Mr.
So
Boulay
you
can come back
comfortable
out
with that? That they'll get the as-bills?
So they need to get the board the as-bills. Sorry, go ahead.
So basically, the discussion is whether or not it's a conditional approval, or if it's wait till the 3rd. Is that what it sounds like?
They just continue. I guess some-
Well, they're looking for the conditional improvement tonight with
I
those
think they already
conditions.
have
That's
oh,
temporary. They're
yeah.
looking for the occupancy.
Yeah, they're looking
Yeah, they're looking, so if they
A final-
satisfy all of these conditions that we set forth tonight, then Mike Lavecchia could give them the occupancy
So that would give
permit
them a
without
chance
coming
to
back
be,
to hit us.
a chance to get the approval before the next meeting.
Yes.
I mean, it's different than what we discussed the other day, isn't it? Weren't we gonna have this week to review and then see if DPW is okay with it.
Well, that's part of making the list of conditions, that I think the board is open to any conditions we suggest.
Yeah, any suggestions that you...
So it would be confirming the as-built.
It would be confirming the as-built, going through all the...
Tetra Tech, the state stuff, DPW.
DPW stuff, yeah, would have to, all those
the
things would have to be
plans.
satisfied, or they would not get the occupancy permit.
The plans,
conditioned on that.
the fees. Is there anything else on the?
To be honest, I haven't completed the review of all those items. As we speak tonight, if there are Concom or DOT, like...
DOT would have to be,
things
we'd have
that
to see,
would
confirm
rely
DOT
on
as
other
well.
approvals. I think there's enough items that it should be looked at.
It sounds like
next
engineering would like to.
What is the date you're looking to open?
4/15.
Okay, so if you came back
When's our
on the
next meeting?
3rd,
April 3rd.
that gives you enough...
It would be too close, yeah.
Could you have this information by April 3rd?
If we don't have some sort of movement tonight and have to end up coming back to the board, it would delay our opening.
We can give you approval on April 3rd if we get what the engineers are looking for.
And I believe that's our stance, is we would delay opening because that would not allow us proper time to prepare for the opening.
I don't know, we can put it to a motion, but
Why does it say on the agenda that they're looking for temporary occupancy and not the final occupancy?
Yeah,
Because that's why I wasn't
think
prepared. I
you-
was thinking that they were looking for temporary occupancy. I wasn't aware that you already granted it. I thought the board grants the temporary occupancy.
The temporary was just training.
temporary was for a
staff.
training exercise, and that was granted by...
So why is that on our agenda if we don't have, if that's not what we're doing
So
tonight?
we have to,
That wasn't submitted by me.
I know,
think
I'm
that was
looking at
just- I
Nancy.
think that just was taken from the prior agenda item, so.
Because
it was continued from the last
Yeah, it was continued. I spoke to Nan about it,
Okay.
which is why I said in the first place that we're not really here for temporary, this is just a continuation.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, that's not a big deal. It's temporary. It's not all this pressure to have the conditions. We could have discussed more about getting the conditions in order.
Having an actual list.
Having an actual list instead of trying to wing it at the 9:30 at night.
there's
after
basically a
very
lot
long
missing
night.
that we need to close it out.
I have not received, unless I'm wrong, any historic approval that you could connect to the town sewer.
Does it say that again? The planning board and the engineering department, Department of Public Works, has a sewer in Nicolay Circle that connects to, well, how would the town not recognize that there's a sewer which had been conveyed to them through a Form K when a subdivision was approved? Says, well, nobody said you could connect to that. That was the whole, I mean, the town has records. DPW, engineering, planning board. I mean, that's the burden on the applicants to go back to the planning board records. Go ahead.
Kevin, I think there's a little, Rich, I think there's confusion. I think what you're saying is you're not sure that when we tied in with the approved tying point at the manhole, whether we paid an I&I fee to do that connection, even though sewer was there was inspections along the way, Tetra, they were all there. You're just not sure if the proper fee was handed over. That's the question, right?
Yeah, and that would be my hesitancy.
And that's why I'm saying, I thought tonight was for
But if
temporary.
it's a conditional,
But they're asking for a full occupancy permit, they don't want to back. They don't want to start.
Well, we
That's
have
why
to- we have to list
prefer
out
start-
I think we should at least confirm the fees have been received.
Let's confirm everything.
Confirm everything,
Because once they're gone, and once they're up and running, they don't want to shut down. So where's the punch list? That's what I'm saying, if they could do it between now and then,
satisfied.
How long does it take you to stock your store?
Yep.
From the third to the 15th?
Well, we have to
Laid as
have,
requested by town
no,
engineer
like, the actual staff has to be prepared to start work. We can't just
by DPW.
wake them up and say, okay, go into the restaurant and start
Fee
cooking.
satisfied. Punch list.
I mean, we have to
Well,
organize.
A couple weeks.
Yeah.
Based on what we're asking you for, if we got it, you're 50% of the way there.
Tetra Tech as both.
Well, I
understand what
see it
I'm
as a rolling thing. I mean, if it's fees that are asked receipt of, I mean, how does that affect the board's granting approval if we're still conditioning to meet all the requirements of the town? We would still meet the conditions.
We are the
of it.
town.
Well,
So it
town
comes-
engineering,
It comes to the
sir.
board first, and then it goes on to the engineers, DPW. So we get it, we present it to them, they go through it, bang, boom. The process becomes a lot faster than what we're doing here.
And
Will it
the
take
peer
time to
review.
do?
And the peer reviewer of the board.
Steve said he would meet me anytime to review it. I asked him to do that.
Right, but we're, you know, I don't know that it's
Well, once-
appropriate to take their word that their punch list is complete. I think Tetra Tech should verify.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Well, I think the discussion is whether or not to do a conditional approval and making a list of conditions.
yes, yes, so if we were to, if the board was to make the conditional approval tonight and list conditions that have to be met, what are all the conditions that everybody has? So what I have so far is the as-built laid as requested by the town engineers to meet all approvals of the DPW, that all fees are satisfied, a punch list from Tetra Tech, especially concerning the as-built comments, DOT approval,
Sign up for the wetlands.
conservation.
Respectfully, the DOT approval closes out when they get to it. We have no control over that. It could be 30, 60, 90 days from now.
Okay.
And Concom is not going to close out until
Right.
the plants have matured and they've accepted them. They've got a $30,000.
Yeah, they have their own team.
Right.
Yeah, so we can't figure out. Anything else?
But you've been very lucky to
Kevin?
get the DOT out to look at what you've had, so.
Agreed. It was
Oh,
a
if they've been
miracle
there
they got
and
out
looked at
there
it, how
that
hard is
fast.
it to
Yeah.
get it all the same?
She can put in for it to be done, but then it goes through the system and it's automated.
Yeah.
The inspection reports from the leak tests. We never got those, or Tetra Tech never got those.
Which,
For the water testing or?
Yeah, there was a third party that came out and tested the air tightness of the structures
So that would
related to the sewer. So Tetra Tech was expecting a field report from that.
okay,
Was that a
that's through the
comment?
contractor. Huh?
Was that a comment?
It wasn't
Richard?
a comment on their list, but
Oh, it's been comment of mine.
I agreed. I think that was from the engineering side, not from a site perspective. And the contractor's putting all those reports together. I don't know. It has to go to inspections too, I'm assuming. I can get an update on that.
We can get that information from the
Yeah.
contractor.
Yeah, well, based on the timeline we agreed on, I don't feel I completed my review, so I don't have,
But you'll have some time to do that.
But
Yeah.
it has to kind of be part of the conditions approved if you're,
It would be that they have to satisfy all your concerns and condition, you know, anything that you've got. They have to satisfy DPW. It's a standard condition that we put in any approval. Quite honestly, no offense to you, but DPW you know what I'm talking about when I say that we never have the comments from the DPW when we're ready to do approval, so it's always a condition. It's pretty much a standard condition.
well,
Not on your end, I'm not saying
we're
engineering.
doing our best to enjoy, I mean, to approve it.
So I'm
And
just
my
saying, if we
question
make it
to
a
the
condition, they won't
applicants-
get the occupancy. If they haven't satisfied the DPW concerns, then they're not gonna get the occupancy permit. It's gonna be a condition, so they have to do
okay,
that. Okay?
sounds good.
Is there anything else? From anybody else that you wanna
Yes, I don't understand the timeline, I guess. Because if we grant the occupancy permit, then they can open on the 15th, but if they don't meet the conditions, Then they can't open?
then you have to close.
Right.
So why would the third be different?
Because they're saying they need that time to, they're saying they're gonna hit the ground running on this and get this done right away and get it right back to us. But if they have to wait, 3 weeks, and then if this board still doesn't approve it, it just doesn't give them enough time to prepare for the opening, is
Well,
my
and to
understanding.
elaborate too, we are coordinating with Mass State Police. We've also coordinated with Saugus PD to be at the opening, so we have to allow appropriate time for them to staff our opening as well. So this is helping us to start setting up for the opening period.
And it
My
really
guess
puts
is
the
they're gonna get
pressure
all
on
these conditions done.
me.
That's 12 days between the meeting and the time you want to open.
We have to have contracts in place, we have to have MassDOT roadway signage.
So let's stop 1 second. You're giving us all the things you need, but we're asking you for things that we need as a board.
Yes, sir.
that
We're
we-
committing
that we're
to
not
do
getting.
those
It just
things.
doesn't make sense.
No, we're committing to do those things as conditionally approved. If we don't uphold our end of the bargain, then we won't open. That's exactly what we're saying, is if the engineering team is not satisfied by the documents and conditions that we are asking you approve, then we wouldn't open.
So how much time do you need to do the as-bills that they need so they can read them with the layers on them? Because that's gonna take some time for them to go through. So in fairness to them, we don't wanna wait until the last minute and then say, oh, I'm sorry, we're just getting them to you now. We had to do this, the other thing first. And then you're asking them, because if you don't give them the time they need to review them, and what do you think is a fair time to review them once you get the layer broken down the way you want?
I defer to you.
How much time do you think you need to go through those as-bills? If they're prepared the way you want them?
And that may be a question for Tetra Tech as well.
We need to get Tetra Tech back out to...
And look at the as-bills. I will say the past few weeks have been dominated by Raising Cane's and making accommodations to expedite reviews of partial submittals and things like that. It's anything within a week is tough. Anything within, 2 is, I don't know. It's hard to say depending on how well it's presented. It can go quicker. I started calling the other departments today because I didn't have the information provided on what payment went where. So I started trying to find out myself. I would say an initial review of a set of as-bills, I don't know.
So when do you think you can have? So we gotta divide things out into different groupings, because so you're saying the field work is done, so we'd have to tomorrow reach out to Tetra Tech to check that. There was comments on the as-bills and that sort of stuff. And so how long, when do you think you could get those comments to us? Or the update so let's start with the first thing, the plans. There were some comments from Tetra Tech, and then doing things in the red line manner. When do you think you can get those to us?
So as-bilt's been 90% updated already, and we've started to break them out per our earlier conversation and Tetra Tech's comment letter that we got yesterday. We just need time to break it out. And even further, it sounds like from
So how much
today.
time is what we're asking? We can't just say time, because if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
looking for an open window, then we're looking for an open window.
Yeah, so.
We're trying to work with you.
Yep.
And it's getting late and I'm getting cranky.
Yep.
So
So
put a number on it.
I can commit to Thursday for sure.
Next
This Thursday?
Thursday?
Yep. And if we can do around faster, we'll turn around faster.
So
if you leave now, you can get it in 2 hours. I'm kidding.
So
The 27th.
So if you get it by Thursday, how much time realistically?
But, so let's
Estimated.
realistically look at this. If you got it by Thursday, that would be setting it up for the, so Thursday is 4 business days from the 3rd, which is the next meeting.
which is why we're saying if we don't have approval this evening, we have to push it, because if
Well,
there's
maybe
further
push it.
comments, then
Well, we need what we need, they need what they need. This is a mutiny on the bounty right now. I understand where they're coming from, I understand where they've been, but we also need to CYA, as they call it, and we need to have all this information. Because if we don't get it, we have to close you down. There'll be nothing worse than a failure.
I don't believe, sir, that we would get that far.
So what you're saying is you can't get this information from your engineers till next Thursday.
What I'm saying
So
is he's guaranteeing
These
that.
guys cannot stop everything that they're doing because Raising Cane is in town. It'd be nice if they could, but they're as busy with everything else that we got going on as you are trying to get your store open. So in fairness to them, and that's what I'm asking them, is a week's time enough for you?
So this Thursday would be the 27th.
That's correct.
So and then you have,
Thursday is the
the following is a week away, would be the 3rd, and then the 10th. And you're looking to open what, the 15th?
15th.
But they're also saying that, but they've also said that not having a definitive answer by the 3rd is already too late.
No, by this board, to be specific, we would go ahead and start making preparations. If we get continued until the 3rd because we don't have this board's approval.
So let's say you got a conditional approval tonight. When does that conditional, so you're asking, because we're trying to figure out a timeline?
She's saying if she knows tonight, she can start working on all this stuff, but if she has to wait 2 weeks to start and get it on the 3rd to start working on it, it's not enough time. Am I right?
Correct.
But we're asking the question of, okay, so if you get the conditional approval, when is your drop dead date, because it's not the 3rd?
No.
It doesn't have to do with so much with the updating of the plans, it has to do with knowing if there's a discretionary approval outstanding.
Yeah, so, yes.
So if
if they have a conditional approval, they're gonna do backflips to try to get everything that you need. But if they don't know that and start doing the backflips on the 3rd, then it's not enough time to prepare, is what I think you're trying to say.
If they get us stuff by the 27th, and will give us a week to review it, that would be the 3rd, is that acceptable?
Well, at that point, we would only be seeking to satisfy your all stuff, because that's what the board
The conditional approval.
would be conditionally approving. So,
I
yes.
guess I was getting confused, because I'm like, why not just go to the next meeting?
No, because, I know what she's
Apparently
trying
there's
to
a
say.
difference, and I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
So it actually gives you more time to review.
Yeah.
Could I clarify? I know it's been clarified by Phil and now Todd's asking, but I just want to understand. We can vote for a conditional tonight, and if we do, everybody has to have everything completed by the 3rd. They come back in on the 3rd and the conditional becomes guaranteed, and it's the permit. If they come back in on the 3rd and somebody hasn't done anything, then they have to.
That's what we're looking for. But what they're looking for tonight is the conditional approval tonight.
Right, but if they get
Without
that,
having all the
the
information.
3rd is the
But they don't have to
deadline.
come back on the
I say
3rd.
we can just work with engineering for them to
If
sign
they,
off.
if they,
But by the time I'm
if they've
next-
satisfied
So it would
everything,
act as a temporary.
I mean, we could put them on the
I
3rd.
think there's enough outstanding items that, well, I just don't get what date that would go into effect. I guess like Rich is asking, what
I'm
if they
trying to
don't?
understand, how would we know it's all complete?
So in theory, we would be putting it on them to have all the conditions completed. So to give us a week to review it, they would have to have everything that we discussed in the conditions submitted by the 27th.
Submitted and done.
Submitted, done, everything done for the 27th, and submitted to us. And if they didn't do that, we would be reporting to the board on the 3rd. Well, we'd also be notifying the board.
So no matter what, it would be an agenda item for the 3rd.
It has to be.
Well, that, it could be addressed as the engineer's report, maybe?
Could be
Yeah, I mean,
addressed
I
as a
think
condition
the
that all
conditions, that
conditions have
all
been met.
conditions have to be met, and we would verify that all those conditions are met. And Mike LaVecchia wouldn't issue you know, he wouldn't issue, it's conditioned that all these are met. Mike would need sign off from all of us that all of our conditions are met, and if we tell Mike that the conditions haven't been met, then he won't issue it. I don't see that they would have to come back to us as long as we're all say we're satisfied. So we're gonna have a list of conditions, everybody that these conditions pertain to, like engineering is the main one, and DPW, you guys are gonna say, these have been met. We'll relay, you know, then you would relay that to Mike LaVecchia. We would check in with Mike. Mike can't issue it unless he knows that all our conditions that the planning board have set have been met, and then he would issue it. If they are not met, he will not issue it, and then you will be back before us.
Correct.
I would guess that they only have to come back before, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm just going off common sense. I don't know if I'm right.
Because your question is, I think it comes down to that they need a piece of paper that says that they, even if it's a conditional approval, they need that to be able to proceed, even though we're talking about the same timeline of everything would be done by the 3rd.
We're not setting a timeline. We're not saying everything has to be done by this date. It behooves them to get everything done as soon as possible so they can, you know what I mean? So they have that permit in hand that says their occupancy permit in hand. They'll sleep better at night if they have that in hand. I'm gonna sleep I'm not gonna sleep at all because it's already 10 o'clock. But you know what I'm saying? It only behooves them to get all these things done. Mike LaVecchia will not issue the building, the occupancy permit if they have not been.
So I guess an additional condition to add in would be the engineering department needs at least a week to finish our review.
Okay.
From the final
And
documents.
you're shooting for the 27th, so that should give you that time. Okay.
So that way we're ensuring that things don't drag on.
Engineers.
Where we're establishing that we need time to actually be able to review something.
So you're gonna take 1 week to review.
Engineer needs the plans.
And you would
How about
let-
we just
you
put
would
in
let-
by the 27th? We're not gonna say how long, but you, with a week. With a week, you are saying you're committing to doing it in a week. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
And then this check.
So the sooner you get them, the sooner you get the better.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, this checklist then goes to Mike and he oversees.
No, this check would go to the DPW, go to the engineers, would go to the planning board for everyone to sign off, so it wouldn't
Yeah,
still get
everybody has to
signed
sign off
until-
before he can give an occupancy.
But right now, what we're giving them permission to do, putting it on
To
their
start
lap.
their plan for their opening. We're just giving them the plan to open. But they fully understand that they have to complete.
So
this
if they
list
don't
of
meet the conditions, they don't open.
Right, okay. It was clear, there's just so much going back and forth.
No, that's just in a different.
No, it's not clear, because it's different.
Everybody's got a lot of work to do. Get to work.
But essentially, they
Okay.
would be done with planning board, provided they complete all those items.
Yes. Right, Nancy? They don't have to come back before us?
No.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to vote on the occupancy permit.
Okay, with all these conditions
Are we
stated?
there yet?
We're there.
If you put the language with.
Make a motion to vote on the occupancy, the permit, pending.
Conditional, make a motion to vote on a conditional
Conditional
occupancy permit
occupancy permit.
based on all these conditions are met. The as-built, I should put my glasses on, I can't even read my own writing. I'm sorry.
You should make the motion.
You can make it, I'll just read it for you. As-built laid as requested by the town engineers. The engineers need the plans by the 27th with 1 week to review. Meet all approvals and requirements by the DPW. All the fees and fees are satisfied and permit fees. Punch list by Tetra Tech and have been completed.
And as-built.
And review.
And as-built, as the as-built. And inspection field report, the inspection field reports for the leak test, as you mentioned. Anything else? Is that it? That covers it?
Yeah, good.
Okay?
That's the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 4-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
I have a motion.
Next on the agenda, you need vote.
Thank
Do I
you,
have a
thank you,
motion
my
to
favorite
adjourn?
motion. I have a pounding freaking headache.
I'll make that motion.
No, I hate it.
He made the motion,
Okay.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.